Chapter 50. Seeing that everyone had surrendered, Zhao Fu handed control over to Bai Qi and stepped over the corpses on the ground. He came to the Goblin Village's village hall, and as expected, it was an advanced village, and it was a blue-grade village. Zhao Fu chose to conquer it and relocate it, and he received a system announcement that he had obtained 200 achievement points and 4,340 EXP. This was the benefit of conquering an advanced village. Right now, the Qin village was only an intermediate village, and it required 30,000 EXP to level up to an advanced village. Now that he had obtained so much EXP, the Qin village would be able to level up soon. Because the elf village was quite close, Zhao Fu led his people to the elf village first. The elves within the village had received a system announcement that their leader had surrendered, but seeing so many other races walk in, including kobolds, goblins, gnomes, and even the terrifying orcs, they were quite shocked. As such, most of the elves did not dare to come close, and they looked at them from afar in fear. Daisy brought Zhao Fu into the elf village and walked towards the village hall. At that moment, an elf girl who looked around 15 or 16 years old ran over and hugged Daisy's arm. She stuffed her head into Daisy's embrace and asked fearfully, "Mother, what's going on?" Daisy looked at her daughter lovingly and rubbed her head as she said softly, "We'll talk later." After saying this, Daisy turned to Zhao Fu and said, "Your Majesty, this is my daughter, Asani. This is my daughter, Asani." Zhao Fu looked at Asani, who was in Daisy's embrace. She was quite beautiful and had exquisite features. She looked a bit like her mother, but she was not as mature and had a trace of childishness to her. Zhao Fu nodded, indicating that he understood. Seeing this, Daisy did not dare to say anything and led Zhao Fu to the village hall. Zhao Fu looked at the elf village's stats. It was also an advanced village, and it was also a blue-grade village. Just as he was about to conquer it and relocate it, he suddenly thought of something and went to the elf barrack. Elf Archer, E-grade military description. Every elf is proficient in archery and swordsmanship. Effect: receives archery and sword control. Elven Priest. D-grade military description. Priests among elves. Effects: receives life energy. Zhao Fu was quite surprised to see the priest profession, which could be obtained through the profession change stone steel. The priest profession was a very special profession, and it could only be obtained by believing in a godly spirit. As such, Zhao Fu felt quite curious. Then, Zhao Fu asked Daisy and understood. According to Daisy, every elf was the child of the great goddess of life, so they could become priests through this. Zhao Fu recalled the battle between the three sides. The three professions stood out the most. The first was the Urukais. When they fought, their eyes would turn bloodshot, and their muscles would congeal. They were brave and fearless, and would strike fear into anyone's heart. The second was naturally the Goblin warriors, brandishing their short swords and going on a rampage. The third was the elves with wooden staffs. They could release a green light to heal the injured, and they could also use offensive magic to summon a few 1-meter-long wooden spikes to attack enemies. These were most likely elven priests, and they were both D-grade professions like Zhao Fu's demon priest. However, Zhao Fu felt that elven priests were slightly better. Firstly, Zhao Fu only had 100 demon priests, while everyone else could change professions through the profession change stone steel. This wasn't just a matter of numbers. It was the difference between a weak godly spirit and a great godly spirit. After looking at the profession's information, Zhao Fu returned to the hall and chose to relocate. He received another 200 achievement points and 3,650 EXP. Finally, the group arrived at the orc tribe. There were less than 50 orc warriors left, and there were 200 or so elderly and young people. Zhao Fu led a group of people to the orc tribe, and the orcs wisely chose to surrender. Zhao Fu went to the hall and looked at the village's stats. He was quite surprised to find that the orc village was a silver-grade village. Zhao Fu once again chose to conquer and relocate, receiving another 200 achievement points and 7,000 EXP. After conquering and relocating these 3 advanced villages, Zhao Fu now had 800 achievement points, and Qin's village had 26,000 EXP. It could be said that Zhao Fu's identity and Qin's village were about to level up. Zhao Fu's biggest gain this time was the population. There were 300 or so kobolds, 700 or so goblins, 400 or so orcs, and the most elves. Because they weren't that strong, Zhao Fu had left them at the end, so they had around 1,400 people. After taking care of everything, the 100-kilometer expedition had come to a perfect conclusion. Not only had they gotten rid of the orcs, but they had also obtained a total of 2,800 people. At the same time, they had obtained a silver city heart and 3 blue city hearts. After a few days, Zhao Fu returned to Qin's village and settled down all of the people he had brought back. He then brought 3 smelly corpses to the altar in the region of bones. One of the corpses belonged to the kobold chief, and the other 2 belonged to the orc brothers. Zhao Fu chose to refine all of them and obtained 3 grade orbs. One of them was an SS grade orb, which should have belonged to Otis, and the other 2 were S grade orbs. When he saw that Otis had obtained an SS grade orb, Zhao Fu felt quite happy. In actuality, Zhao Fu had seen a quest to kill Otis in the Holy Light Field, which gave many achievement points and a piece of silver grade equipment. However, the requirement for completing the quest was to hand over either Otis corpse or Otis head. An SS grade orb was much more valuable than the achievement points and equipment. Zhao Fu wasn't greedy, so he chopped off Otis' head and handed it over. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to refine a grade orb with an incomplete corpse, which would be a great loss for Zhao Fu. As for the 3 grade orbs, Zhao Fu already knew who they would belong to. After returning to the surface, Zhao Fu called Bai Shan to the living room. Bai Shan was the first B-grade elderly person that had spawned in Qin's village, and he was the first person to become a scholar. He was around 60 years old by now. At the same time, he was also the leader of the research team. Now that Qin's village had become an intermediate village, the maximum number of scholars was 20. When Bai Shan was called over by Zhao Fu, he thought that he would be scolded for not being able to discover a skill that could examine a corpse's grade. As such, his face was quite pale, and he immediately knelt on the ground and begged for forgiveness. "Your Majesty, this subordinate hasn't been able to succeed even after so long. This subordinate has not succeeded in his research after so long, please punish me." Zhao Fu sat on a chair and was about to pick up a teacup. When he heard Bai Shan's words, he felt quite surprised. He felt that it had been a long time since he had obtained the heaven and earth refining formation. However, this matter couldn't be rushed, so Zhao Fu didn't blame him. "Rise, Elder Bai," Zhao Fu said to Bai Shan after taking a sip of tea. Chapter 51. Bai Shan felt quite strange as he received the blood-red orb of light. At first, he didn't know what it was because the grade orb was the most important secret of the Qin village, and Zhao Fu had ordered that no one was to leak it. As such, many people didn't know about it. At that moment, Zhao Fu told him about the grade orb. Bai Shan looked quite confused, and he came back to his senses. Tears flowed out of his eyes as he hugged Zhao Fu's leg and said emotionally, "Your Majesty, you've really given me a new life." This was because Zhao Fu had given him an SS grade orb. In the entire Qin village, there were only 2 SS grade orbs, Li Si and Zhang De. Both of them were important ministers under Zhao Fu, and this was especially so for Li Si, who was in charge of everything in the village. It could be said that he was above one person and below tens of thousands of people. Now that Zhao Fu had given him an SS grade orb, he had risen to the same level as them. He had suddenly gone from a commoner to an important minister, so how could he not be shocked and excited? Zhao Fu felt quite speechless as he looked down at the old man, who was crying and hugging his leg. He couldn't help but say, "All right, you can get up." Zhao Fu had given Bai Shan the SS-grade orb after thinking about it. Everyone needed an SS-grade orb, such as Lu Mei, Old Logue, and Doke, who all had S-grade orbs. However, Zhao Fu thought that if he obtained an SSS-grade orb in the future, it would be a bit of a waste to give an SS-grade orb to them. Moreover, an S-grade orb was quite good, so Zhao Fu didn't give it to them for now. Of course, Zhao Fu could give it to anyone and nurture them into a general. However, Zhao Fu didn't lack subordinates, and he had 2 S-grade orbs, so he gave up on this idea. Finally, Zhao Fu thought about research. No matter if it was tamers, teleportation channels, or skills, research was incredibly important. After all, technology was the highest productivity. The military had to be developed, and cities had to be developed as well. Just developing the military would only make them look powerful, but that would only last for a while. In the end, they would perish because they didn't have enough resources. If they only developed cities, and if their military wasn't strong enough, they would just be meat in the eyes of others. Zhao Fu also wanted to give the gnome mechanics scholars grade orbs in the future. The gnome mechanics grade orbs that they had developed were Qin Village's greatest weapon. However, this was only an ordinary ballista, and it was quite powerful against people below Stage 1. Against people above Stage 1, it was quite weak. As such, Zhao Fu ordered the gnomes to continue researching Stage 1 ballistas that could threaten Stage 1 soldiers' lives. Raising one's grade did not only increase one's grade, but it would also increase one's comprehension and improve one's abilities. This was the heaven and earth refining formation's ability to steal other people's fortunes. However, the normal grade ballistae were enough, so Zhao Fu didn't put the rest of the grade orbs on them for now. Zhao Fu called Bai Shan over and told him to continue researching the skill that could detect corpses' grade. This was incredibly important to Qin Village. Hearing this, Bai Shan wiped his tears and snot and promised Zhao Fu that he would succeed as soon as possible. He then skipped away like a little child. On the way, some people asked curiously, "Old Bai, what's making you so happy?" Bai Shan smiled as he praised Zhao Fu, saying that Zhao Fu was the wisest prince and that he was good at using talent. He said that they were extremely fortunate to have such a prince. Even Wang Ergu, who had always been sucking up to Zhao Fu, felt that he was inferior. He had never seen someone praise someone so shamelessly before. Following this, Zhao Fu conducted the first martial arts competition in Qin Village. Anyone could participate and only the top 2 would be selected. Once they were selected, they would be given an important position, and everyone else would receive some money as a reward. This competition caused Qin Village to become quite lively. Elves, dwarves, goblins, and other races all joined in, and Zhao Fu achieved his goals. Firstly, he wanted to see if he had missed out on any talent. Secondly, he wanted to use these events to promote the integration of the various races. They were all living beings and had their own emotions, not just a bunch of data. Zhao Fu naturally took their feelings into consideration. As the saying went, water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. Their ancestors had worked hard to establish their country, and they all knew this. It was a pity that their descendants only cared about enjoying themselves, which resulted in the replacement of China's dynasties. This martial arts competition lasted for an entire day. In the end, one of the 2 victors was a urukai called Sar. His strength was truly great and he fought head-on. His fists met flesh with flesh, and a few goblin warriors were beaten to the ground by him. His sturdy muscles, coupled with his terrifying appearance, caused the other challengers to shrink back. As for the other person, what surprised Zhao Fu and the others was that he was Wang Ergu. With his small body, a goblin warrior should have beaten him half to death, but in the end, Wang Ergu won. This was because he had used all sorts of despicable methods, such as pulling out his crotch and poking his nostrils. Zhao Fu saw Wang Ergu go on stage and provoke his opponent, making him angry. Wang Ergu then turned around and faced his opponent with his butt. Wang Ergu really did fart, causing his opponent to rush over and beat him to death. However, he fell for Wang Ergu's trick and stepped on a banana peel, causing him to fall off the stage and lose the match. Even though Wang Ergu had won the competition, his reputation was incredibly bad. However, many people were envious of him, as he was about to be put in an important position by Zhao Fu. After the martial arts competition ended, Zhao Fu called the two of them to the living room. Zhao Fu was sitting on a chair, while Bai Qi and the others were standing beside him. Wang Ergu and Sar were half kneeling on the ground, waiting for Zhao Fu to speak. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Both of you surprised me, especially you, Wang Ergu." When Wang Ergu heard Zhao Fu's words, he felt a bit awkward, but he still smiled and said, "It's all thanks to your majesty." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and handed the two S-grade orbs to them. The two of them were quite shocked, but they quickly came back to their senses and kowtowed in thanks. Seeing that everything was over, Zhao Fu returned to the real world. Chapter 52. After returning to the real world, Zhao Fu left his room and decided to go to the restaurant downstairs that was specially prepared for the Ying family's collateral relative. The so-called collateral relatives referred to people like Zhao Fu, who were one rank lower than the collateral relatives. They only had the Ying family's bloodline. However, even though the collateral relatives' treatment was not as good as the collateral relatives, they were still quite good. For example, they could eat whatever they wanted in the district's restaurant, and they didn't even need to pay. The Ying family would take care of everything. It was a sunny day, and there weren't many clouds in the sky. The sun was high up in the sky, and it was quite hot. Within a building, a skinny middle-aged man looked through his sniper scope and smiled as he saw Zhao Fu come out. He slowly aimed his sniper rifle at Zhao Fu's head and slowly pulled the trigger. It was as if he could already see the bloody scene of Zhao Fu's head exploding and brain matter splattering everywhere. At the same time, Zhao Fu was walking on a small path when he suddenly saw a $1 coin on the ground. Now that he was rich, he was satisfied with everything, and he didn't even bother to pick up the $1 coin. Just as he bent down to pick up the coin, he saw that someone had dropped a dollar coin on the ground. Bang! A gunshot suddenly rang out, and in that instant, Zhao Fu's hair stood on end. He felt something brush past the back of his head, and Zhao Fu's mind went blank. His heart violently thumped, and time seemed to slow down as Zhao Fu breathed heavily. In the next second, Zhao Fu quickly ran into a nearby bush and started to run as fast as he could. Bang! Another gunshot rang out, and the people around him started to run in panic. Zhao Fu took this opportunity to run back to his room and slammed the door shut. He leaned against the door, his body slightly trembling. He had never thought that death would be so close to him, and he had almost been shot in the head. Elsewhere, a middle-aged man saw Zhao Fu run back into the building, and his expression became quite unsightly. He cursed inwardly and abandoned his sniper rifle, choosing to run away. He knew what he was doing. This middle-aged man was called Zhou Qian, and he was a member of an assassin organization. When he had first received this mission, he had been quite hesitant because he knew how terrifying the 5 great clans were. Even top-tier assassin organizations wouldn't dare to offend them. However, this time, he was only killing an unimportant collateral relative. He wasn't even comparable to a collateral relative, and he only had the Ying family's bloodline. Killing him wouldn't attract much attention. Moreover, the reward for this mission was $60 million, and $30 million had already been transferred to his account. Moreover, the other party had provided him with a way to go overseas, which was why Zhou Qian dared to take such a big risk. At first, Zhou Qian wanted to try sneaking into the residential area, but this was not a simple residential area. Although the people living in the residential area were from another department, there was still a very top-notch security system, so it was difficult for Zhou Qian to sneak in. Therefore, he chose this method of assassination. Now that he had failed the mission, he had to run away because the Ying family's people would soon find him. Within the room, Zhao Fu gradually calmed down and thought about who had done this. However, after thinking about it, he knew who it was. Apart from the Li family, who else could it be? They definitely knew that he had the Ying family's bloodline and were afraid that he would rise up in the Ying family and cause trouble for the Li family, which was why they wanted to kill him so quickly. Li family, I'll definitely slaughter your entire family in the future. After his mother died, Zhao Fu had listened to his mother's last words and didn't seek revenge on the Li family. Even when he had obtained Qin's legacy, he had only wanted to change his life and didn't want to have anything to do with the Li family. He had never done anything to harm the Li family. However, now, the Li family had challenged Zhao Fu's bottom line time and time again, and he had almost died. Zhao Fu's hatred towards the Li family reached a boiling point, and he couldn't help but tightly clench his fists and grit his teeth as he coldly said. However, after thinking about it for a while, Zhao Fu calmed down and realized that he was nothing in the real world. He had no money or power, so how could he escape the pursuit of a large family? If they could send people to assassinate him today, they could send people to assassinate him tomorrow, and they could try to poison him the day after. He had become a thorn in the Li family's heart, and they would do everything in their power to kill him. Perhaps he could reveal his identity as Qin's legatee and obtain the Ying family's full support. The Ying family was one of China's 5 great families, and they were much more powerful than the Li family. Although the Great Tang was the celestial empire of the past, and it could be said to be a powerful aristocratic family, even more powerful than the Yang clan of the Sui dynasty. However, the Great Tang and the Ying clan of the Qin dynasty were several hundred years apart. Thus, he could use the Ying clan to eliminate the Li clan. He would kill everyone in the Li family and have Li Zhe kneel in front of his mother in repentance before ending his life. Ha 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 ha! Suddenly, Zhao Fu started to laugh, mocking himself for being so stupid. Did you think that if you stood out and yelled that you were Qin's legatee, the Ying family would warmly welcome you and recognize you as the master of the Ying family? Was that even possible? He was just an outsider who only had a bit of the Ying family's bloodline. How could they give the entire Ying family to him? Who would be willing to accept such a massive Ying family being taken by an outsider? Zhao Fu could tell from how the main families looked at the collateral families, who were even inferior to the side families, that they were divided into different levels. If the Ying family re-established itself in the heaven-awakened world, the collateral families would be given the lowest positions to solidify the Ying family's rule. That was the value of the collateral families. Once Zhao Fu revealed his identity, the Ying family would recognize him as the master of Qin's legatee, but they would secretly use all sorts of methods to make him a mere figurehead. After obtaining Qin's legatee, once Zhao Fu lost his value, he would be killed by the Ying family. In this world, for the sake of profit, brothers can turn on each other and father and son can kill each other. Do you dare to say anything? Would they do anything to an outsider who doesn't even know anything? As such, even if Zhao Fu revealed his identity, that didn't mean that he would be safe. Instead, he would have to face the even more terrifying Ying family. The Li family's danger came from the surface, while the Ying family's danger came from the shadows. As such, the current situation was that anyone could easily crush him to death, and he was just that weak. The problem was that both the Li family and the Ying family were in danger, and he had no choice but to escape. As such, Zhao Fu could only fall into deep thought. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, causing Zhao Fu to feel quite startled and look at the door. May I ask if Mr. Zhao is here? Chapter 53. This woman was Ji Qin, who had brought him here. Zhao Fu thought about it and opened the door as he asked, "What is it?" Seeing this, Ji Qin smiled and said, "Mr. Zhao, I'm Big Miss Shi. Big Miss Shi would like to invite you over." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and knew who this big miss she was. Her name was Ying Shi, and she was the legatee of one of the Ying's 6 bloodlines. Why had she come to find him? It definitely wasn't because his identity as a legatee had been exposed, as no one else knew about it. What does Ying Shi want from me? Zhao Fu suddenly thought about what had happened before and thought about his identity. Perhaps she had found out about it, or more accurately, she had found some value in him. Zhao Fu thought about it and nodded. He followed Ji Qin and a few bodyguards to a beautiful garden. One of them was around 23 or 24 years old, and was quite beautiful. She wore a light white dress and looked like a celestial among the flowers. Big Miss Shi. I've brought him here. Ji Qin bowed slightly as she spoke to Ying Shi with a respectful expression. Ying Shi had just picked up a pink flower, and she sweetly smiled before looking at Zhao Fu behind Ji Qin and nodding. Seeing Ying Shi look at him, Zhao Fu did not show any expression and calmly stood there. Come with me, Ying Shi said after looking at Zhao Fu before turning and walking away. Zhao Fu understood and followed behind her. Soon, Zhao Fu and Ying Shi arrived at a pavilion in the garden. Ying Shi sat on an exquisitely woven bamboo chair and gestured for Zhao Fu to sit as well. Zhao Fu nodded and sat down. Do you know why I called you here? Ying Shi lightly smiled as she looked at Zhao Fu and asked. Zhao Fu thought about it. Even though he could guess why Ying Shi had called him here, Zhao Fu still acted like he didn't understand and shook his head. Seeing this, Ying Shi felt quite satisfied and asked, Do you hate the Li family? As expected, after this incident, the upper echelons of the Ying family had set their eyes on him. Facing Ying Shi's question, Zhao Fu didn't hide his true feelings. Hate! I can help you take revenge. Are you willing to join my faction? Don't worry, I can guarantee your safety. No one can hurt you. Ying Shi didn't beat around the bush. Seeing the true hatred in Zhao Fu's eyes, she directly spoke to Zhao Fu. Help me take revenge? Zhao Fu, on the other hand, knew very well in his heart that there was no way she would help him get revenge. Zhao Fu had long since known that Ying Shi had called him here to use him as a chess piece to control the Li family in the future. In the future, the various large families would start to make plans, and the Ying family was no exception. If the Ying family made a move against the Li family in the future, Zhao Fu would become an important chess piece. This was because Zhao Fu had the Li family's bloodline. Even though Zhao Fu did not have the Li family's bloodline right now, with the Ying family's powerful support, Zhao Fu would be able to divide the Li family. He would also be able to use the Ying family as a chess piece to control the Li family. There were many collateral members of the Li family, and the Ying family could choose anyone to nurture. Why had they chosen Zhao Fu? This was because as a chess piece, he couldn't be too stupid. If he was too stupid, he wouldn't be able to suppress the other members of the Li family. At the same time, he couldn't be too smart either, or he might suffer a backlash. Moreover, Zhao Fu's other identity was quite attractive because he had the Ying family's bloodline. Controlling a chess piece with the Ying family's bloodline was far better than controlling a mere collateral member of the Li family. Zhao Fu had long since known Ying Shi's goal, and everything was within his expectations. As such, Zhao Fu didn't act too stupid, nor did he act too smart. In actuality, before coming here, Zhao Fu had wanted to reveal his identity. Even though the Ying family and the Li family were both in great danger, Zhao Fu had no other choice. If he didn't reveal his identity, the Li family would kill him. As such, Zhao Fu could only reveal his identity to preserve his life. He could only slowly deal with the Ying family. Right now, Zhao Fu's schemes were enough to make even wily old foxes feel afraid. Ordinary tacticians would sigh at their inferiority. After all, Zhao Fu had experienced many hardships since he was young, and he had seen the world's warmth and coldness. He understood the true nature of the world. Zhao Fu had always been a lonely person. Indeed, loneliness was a bad thing, and it could cause people to go crazy and suffer. However, it could allow people to grow and see through people's hearts. This was why Zhao Fu's current personality had been formed. Zhao Fu nodded and agreed to Ying Shi's request. Ying Shi treated him as a chess piece, and he was only using her to ensure his safety. Both sides were using each other, and agreeing was more beneficial to Zhao Fu. Right now, Ying Shi most likely thought that she had complete control over him, and he would act the way she wanted. As for the Li family, he didn't need anyone's help. Only by staining his hands with blood that he hated would he be happy. Seeing that Zhao Fu had agreed, Ying Shi felt quite delighted. Zhao Fu was an important chess piece in her plans, so she immediately gave the order to give Zhao Fu preferential treatment and a safer place. Elsewhere, within a room in the Li family's residence, Li Feng looked incredibly furious as he slammed the table and yelled, "The Ying family has gone too far." The reason why Li Feng was so angry was because he had received a warning from the Ying family. If Zhao Fu dies, I will slaughter 100 of his direct descendants. He didn't put the Li family in his eyes at all. After all, the Li family was a huge family, and they had their own pride. How could anyone accept this? Humph! Li Feng coldly snorted, "This Ying family is too arrogant. Do they really think that our Li family is weak? Do they really think that our Li family is afraid of them?" Seeing that Li Feng was so angry that he looked like he wanted to fight with the Ying family, the butler could not help but advise, "Master, it's not wise to oppose the Ying family right now. It's not like they haven't found Qin's legatee yet, so we can endure it for now. In the future, the Ying family won't be able to rival the Li family, so it won't be too late to deal with them later." Hearing this, Li Feng nodded and his anger subsided a little. He asked, "Have you dealt with that assassin? Don't give the Ying family any evidence against you." The butler replied respectfully, "Master, don't worry, it's already been dealt with." Hearing the butler's words, Li Feng let out a sigh of relief. If the assassin had fallen into the Ying family's hands, it would have caused quite a bit of trouble. For example, the Li family had tried to assassinate an illegitimate child, but they had failed. If news of this spread, the Li family's reputation would be tarnished. However, Li Feng felt that he hadn't thought things through. As soon as that illegitimate child joined the Ying family, he sent out an assassin. No matter how secretive he was, he would have guessed that it was the Li family. However, if he hadn't acted now, it would have been even more difficult for him to act in the future. If he had known this would happen, he would have killed both mother and son from the very beginning. Chapter 54. Within another room in the Li family's residence, Li Baiqing sat on a chair and looked at the documents in his hands. He smiled and said, "Who would have thought that I would have a half-brother?" As Great Tang's legatee, Li Baiqing received the support of the entire Li family and a large amount of resources. He had also established his own intelligence network, so he knew that his grandfather had sent an assassin to kill Zhao Fu. After thinking about it, Li Baiqing thought to himself, "Zhao Fu, the Li family has let you down. If you don't do anything to harm the Li family, I'll definitely let you off in the future and compensate you. However, if you become a pawn of the Ying family and harm the Li family, don't blame me for being ruthless." "Your Majesty, what should we do now?" a young man from the Wu family asked Li Baiqing as he cupped his fists. This young man was a descendant of Great Tang's famous General Li Jing, and his name was Li Guangye. Even though he had his own family, after meeting Li Baiqing, he was impressed by his talent and believed that Li Baiqing would be a wise ruler. As such, he decided to continue serving Great Tang like his ancestor. Apart from this, Great Tang also had two new historical figures. One of them was Shui Rengui, a legendary general who had fought in countless battles and made great contributions to Great Tang. The other was Wei Zheng, who dared to speak out and was praised by later generations as a famous prime minister. When Li Baiqing heard Li Guangye's words, he said, "Don't worry about it for now. If the Li family and the Ying family fight, it won't be good for either side, and it will only benefit the other. Right now, we should focus on development. When he heard this, Li Guangye nodded and respectfully retreated to the side. As for Zhao Fu, he first moved his house to a place that only the direct descendants could live in, and Ing Shi gave him a bodyguard to protect him. This was the best he could do for now. Now that his life was somewhat guaranteed, Zhao Fu returned to his room, took out the Heaven Awakened stone, and entered the Heaven Awakened world. After entering the Heaven Awakened world, Zhao Fu made sure that he did not think about the real world and placed all of his attention on Qin Village. Right now, Qin Village was the only thing Zhao Fu could rely on. Because the threat of the orcs had been resolved, Zhao Fu had thought about the godly spirit. However, the heaven and earth refining formation was not something he could use whenever he wanted. He needed crystal stones, and there were not many crystal stones left in the jade trough. How could he refine the godly spirit with that little energy? Whether it was now or in the future, energy stones were definitely the most important resource. Without them, it would be impossible to use the heaven and earth refining formation. However, energy stones were simply too expensive. One could only be bought for 10 gold coins, which was 100,000 copper coins. Zhao Fu didn't have that much money to buy it. He could use the equipment he had obtained from the Space of Bones to trade for it, but Zhao Fu urgently needed it. After subduing the elves and orcs, Zhao Fu took 100 from the 300 kobolds, 300 from the 700 goblin villages, 100 from the 400 orcs, and 600 from the 1,400 elves. Now, Zhao Fu had 2,900 soldiers available for battle, but he only had 1,000 or so blue-grade equipment. He was still lacking, so how could he sell them? As such, energy stones were quite rare. Unless he could find a way to earn a lot of money, he would be able to buy energy stones. Otherwise, it would depend on whether he was lucky enough to find a vein of energy stones in the Forest of Horrors. As such, he could only temporarily stop his god-plotting plan. His next task was to continue exploring the Forest of Horrors. Right now, Zhao Fu had only explored the area within 30 kilometers of Qin Village, and he would now explore the area beyond that area to see what he could find. Now that he had 2,900 soldiers, it was a bit too much to lead so many soldiers. As such, Zhao Fu decided to split into 2 teams, one led by Bai Qi and the other led by himself, and they would explore in different directions. A few days later, the 2 teams had explored the area within 50 kilometers of Qin Village, but they hadn't made much. However, they had conquered 4 more basic villages. One was a normal village, one was a bandit village, one was a gnome village, and one was a goblin village. After conquering these 4 villages, Zhao Fu had used population as his main resource, which was why he had kept a lot of people. The 4 villages had provided 1,300 or so people, so Zhao Fu had taken out 500 of them to increase their army to 3,400. It could be said that the Great Qin Village was now the most powerful village in the surrounding 100-kilometer radius region. After conquering the 4 basic villages, Zhao Fu obtained 200 achievement points, causing his status to rise to 3rd-ranked Baron. Even though it was only a 3rd-ranked Baron, it was still a noble title, and he had the power to level up a village into a town. Apart from this, 3rd-ranked Baron also had some special privileges, such as the respect from the soldiers in the system main cities, the 10% discount from shops, and the ability to directly buy houses in the system main cities or become residents of the system main cities without needing achievement points. Zhao Fu wanted to buy houses. In some games and novels, after entering a city, one could buy a large amount of land and sell it. Right now, this was the most profitable thing to do. Right now, the houses in the system main cities could only be rented out, and one had to earn city merit points to become a resident of the system main cities before they could buy land. However, there were restrictions. They could only buy land in the residential district, and they couldn't buy too much. They couldn't buy commercial land or flourishing areas. Zhao Fu knew that after becoming a third-ranked baron, he would be able to buy houses, but there would be restrictions. However, Zhao Fu still planned to go to the system main cities to have a look. He was currently lacking money, and it would be best to find a way to make a lot of money. After using the teleportation channel, Zhao Fu once again arrived at Holy Light City. There were still many people here, and Zhao Fu directly went to the real estate office. After entering, there were quite a few people here, and Zhao Fu saw a few people he recognized. One was Jiang Rou and a few other members of the Jiang family, while the other was the pompous Zhou family with a few hooligans who were pestering Jiang Rou. However, Zhao Fu didn't dare to be too presumptuous, as the real estate office was managed by Holy Light City's officials. Perhaps the Zhou family could do as they pleased among the players, but they were nothing in the eyes of the residents. If they dared to offend the officials of a system main city, none of the Zhou family's people would dare to enter Holy Light City in the future. After all, the power of a system main city wasn't something that anyone could contend against. Seeing this, Zhao Fu didn't bother to do anything. This had nothing to do with him, and the Zhou family's pompous Zhou family had dared to pester the Jiang family's people. Chapter 55. Since their families didn't care, why would Zhao Fu be so nosy? As such, Zhao Fu didn't want to care, and he walked into the real estate office to ask about the restrictions and benefits of being a baron. At that moment, Jiang Rou's gaze fell on Zhao Fu and Bai Qi's bodies. Even though Zhao Fu and Bai Qi were both wearing cloaks, Jiang Rou immediately recognized them and asked, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Zhao?" Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and hadn't expected to be recognized, but he nodded to indicate that he was. The pompous man's expression became cold. He could tell that these two people were the ones who had hit him before. When he had heard that Zhao Fu was a legatee, Zhou Jie had thought that he had made a big mistake. However, after going back, he found that a legatee with the surname Zhao was not in the Forest of Horrors, and there were no signs of any large families entering the Forest of Horrors. If the Forest of Horrors had a legatee, the large families would definitely enter the Forest of Horrors to gather resources and help them develop. However, there were no signs of them doing so. Moreover, when he had said that he was a legatee, it had only been based on someone else's voice. There was no evidence to prove that he was a legatee. From Zhou Jie's perspective, Zhao Fu was just a villager. Hearing others call him Your Majesty, he acted cool and told his subordinates to call him Your Majesty. Damn it! How shameless! Even large families didn't dare to call him that. Zhou Jie coldly laughed. Last time, because the people he brought were too weak, he learned his lesson and specially hired a few strong fighters, all for the sake of taking revenge today. Boy! If you have the guts, come out with your elder. Zhou Jie coldly laughed as he spoke to Zhao Fu. He knew that he couldn't fight here, so he planned to call Zhao Fu outside to deal with him. Jiang Rou looked quite troubled, and she found that she had accidentally made trouble for Zhao Fu. She had reported that there was a legatee in the Forest of Horrors, but after her family had investigated, they had ruled out this possibility and treated it as a joke. She had also received a lot of mockery. Despite this, Jiang Rou still felt that Zhao Fu was not simple at all. She believed that Zhao Fu was definitely a legatee, and he was a very powerful one at that. In fact, she had a feeling that in the future, his name would resound throughout the entire world. Even if she was treated as a joke, she still believed it. Zhou Jie, don't cause trouble. It's not good for your Zhou family. Jiang Rou tried to persuade Zhou Jie, but Zhou Jie was infuriated. He and Jiang Rou were brought together by their families, and Zhou Jie had long since treated Jiang Rou as his fiancé. But now, his fiancé was actually speaking up for another man, so how could Zhou Jie not be angry? Zhao Fu was quite surprised that Jiang Rou would speak up for him, but Zhao Fu did not have the time to pay attention to Zhou Jie's provocation. Seeing that he had been ignored by Zhao Fu, Zhou Jie rushed up and slapped Zhao Fu as he yelled, "God damn it, didn't you hear what your elder was saying?" Hearing his words, Zhao Fu's gaze became cold. Facing Zhou Jie's slap, Zhao Fu did not move, while Bai Qi coldly harumphed and grabbed Zhou Jie's hand. He twisted, and with a crack, Bai Qi broke Zhou Jie's arm. Arg! A pitiful cry sounded out as Zhou Jie's subordinates saw their master being beaten up. A few of them clenched their fists and rushed towards Bai Qi. Although they were experts in the eyes of ordinary people, against Bai Qi, they were simply seeking death. Bai Qi's cultivation was already at stage 0 to 7, and with the stats of his equipment, it was impossible for them to defeat him. As such, they were quickly beaten to the ground by Bai Qi, and they could not even get up. When Zhou Jie saw that the fighters he had spent a lot of money to hire were so weak, he immediately called out to the manager of the real estate department, "Look, he's attacking people. Hurry up and arrest him." However, what happened next shocked everyone. The manager, who had been indifferent to players, respectfully walked over to Zhao Fu and called out, "Lord Baron." Hearing this, Zhao Fu faintly nodded, thinking that this was the benefit of having a higher status. He turned to look at Zhou Jie, who was clutching his arm in disbelief, and asked the manager, "What should we do?" The manager smiled and said, "I personally saw these unruly commoners attack Lord Baron first, so Lord Baron was acting in self-defense. This lowly one will immediately call for people to throw these people out." Following this, the manager really did call a few people to throw Zhou Jie and the others onto the street. Jiang Rou and the others had never thought that things would turn out like this, nor had they expected that Zhao Fu would already be a baron. After all, people from large families like Jiang Rou had only just become citizens, and they were still quite far away from becoming barons. In actuality, most of these ordinary families built their villages near system main cities. Even though it was much safer there, there were fewer opportunities. It could be said that within the Forest of Horrors, only Zhao Fu had become a baron. "Mr. Zhao, we meet again. I'm sorry for causing trouble for you." Jiang Rou apologized for calling out to Zhao Fu and attracting Zhou Jie's attention. Zhao Fu thought about it and said, "Big Miss Jiang, it's nothing much. It's just a small problem, so there's no need to apologize." Jiang Rou said with some embarrassment, "But this matter is related to me, so I'm really sorry. Also, there's no need to call me Big Miss Jiang. Just call me by my name." Hearing her words, Zhao Fu understood and nodded. At that moment, Jiang Rou couldn't help but ask, Mr. Zhao, can we become friends?" This scene would definitely cause others to feel incredibly envious. There weren't many people who could make Big Miss Jiang take the initiative. Hearing this, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before replying, "Of course. Also, there's no need to call me Mr. Zhao, just call me Zhao Xn." Zhao Fu didn't want to reveal his real name, so he could only make up a name. Hearing that Zhao Fu had agreed and told her his name, Jiang Rou couldn't help but feel quite happy. She lightly smiled, showing off her delicate beauty to the fullest, causing others to feel quite dazed. Zhao Fu was quite immune to this, and after chatting with Jiang Rou for a bit, he found out why she had come here. The Jiang family wanted to develop Holy Light City, so they wanted to buy a few pieces of land. However, no one wanted ordinary residential land, and the Jiang family wanted to buy a piece of land along the street. However, there were restrictions on residential land, so they couldn't buy it. Hearing this, Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to buy the land and sell it at a high price to the large families, earning massive profits. Zhao Fu had already planned everything out, but after hearing Jiang Rou's words, Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed. Chapter 56. The reason why he was disappointed was because Jiang Rou said that she could only take out 40 gold coins, which was 400,000 copper coins. However, that was only enough to buy 5 energy stones, and if Zhao Fu wanted to buy energy stones, he would need far too much gold coins. The 1,000 slots in the Heaven and Earth refining formation would require at least 1,000 energy stones. Zhao Fu had asked Old Log how to make a godly spirit descend, and Old Log's reply was that a godly spirit could not descend with its main body, but it could send a clone. Through a large number of sacrifices it would be possible. Zhao Fu had no idea how powerful a godly spirit's clone would be. Even though it was only a weak godly spirit, it would definitely be very powerful, so 1,000 energy stones was a must. Energy stones cost 10 gold coins each, so 10 of them would be 100 gold coins. 1,000 energy stones would cost 10,000 gold coins, which was equivalent to 100 million copper coins. Zhao Fu wondered if he had gone crazy to spend so much money for an uncertain benefit. However, after thinking about it, that was a supreme godly spirit that could control the lives and deaths of countless creatures. If he refined it, it would definitely leave behind something that could defy the heavens and change one's fate. As such, Zhao Fu did not care about Jiang Rou's 400,000 copper coins at all. However, after thinking about it, it was already quite good for a large family to take out 400,000 copper coins. Zhao Fu first asked the manager what privileges he had as a baron, and he found out that he could hire 10 Stage 1 soldiers in Holy Light City. As for property, apart from the city hall, he could buy up to 10 properties. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu gave up on any thoughts of profiteering from real estate. He could only buy 10 properties, and he did not know who to sell them to. The large families were simply too poor. Zhao Fu decided to do Jiang Rou a favor and take her 40 gold coins to buy a property for her. Ordinary residential areas cost tens of thousands of copper coins, and those along the streets cost hundreds of thousands of copper coins. This time, Jiang Rou bought a relatively prosperous street on the South Main Street, which cost 310,000 copper coins. Zhao Fu helped her buy this property and returned the rest of the money to Jiang Rou. The matter that had been bothering Jiang Rou for a long time had been resolved, and she now treated Zhao Fu as an ordinary person. She looked incredibly grateful as she said, "Thank you, Zhao Xian." Zhao Fu did not mind and nodded. There were not many benefits to buying property, so Zhao Fu did not plan to participate. Now that he knew about the privileges of a baron, Zhao Fu felt a bit disappointed. In actuality, hiring 10 Stage 1 soldiers seemed quite good, and if it was an ordinary village, he would have hired them long ago. However, he had a legendary grade village with a special legacy, while these system main cities were only gold grade. Zhao Fu's Great Qin's 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 Great Qin. Zhao Fu could hire those 10 soldiers, but he could not guarantee that they would be completely loyal to him. If news of his legendary grade village was leaked, even the system main cities would not be able to resist. After saying goodbye, Zhao Fu, Lian Zhao Li Jiang, and Rou Zhao Qin and returned Jiang. Suddenly, someone came to report, "Your Majesty, we've discovered a massive bronze concentrate mine 53 kilometers west of Qin village." Hearing this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel delighted. Bronze concentrate was a type of ore that looked like bronze, but it could be used to forge blue-grade equipment. Just how big was it? Zhao Fu called over Sar, who was the leader of the scouting party. After asking about the situation, he found out that the bronze concentrate mine was an open-pit mine that covered 2 kilometers. If so much was exposed, then there would be even more underground. Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel excited. At that moment Sar said, "Your Majesty, there's a grey dwarf tribe of roughly 1,000 or so people there." Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and gathered all of the soldiers to head to the bronze concentrate mine. After arriving, Zhao Fu looked quite shocked. There was not a single tree in front of him, and he could not see the bottom of the mine. The ground was covered with the faint azure ore. Even though he had heard that the bronze concentrate mine was very big, Zhao Fu hadn't expected it to be so big. By now, the grey dwarves who were mining discovered Zhao Fu's group and immediately dropped their tools in fear. They ran back to the village, and the entire village went on guard. The grey dwarves put on bronze concentrate armor and held bronze concentrate axes and hammers. Zhao Fu led his people to surround the grey dwarf village. Seeing that the 1,000 grey dwarves were all equipped with excellent and brand new blue-grade equipment, Zhao Fu felt quite envious. Zhao Fu looked at the grey dwarf village and did not plan to directly attack. After all, these were blacksmiths, and after occupying this place, it would be up to them to turn the ore into equipment. Following this, Zhao Fu called a grey dwarf to act as a translator and said loudly, "I don't want to hurt you. You all know how valuable this massive bronze concentrate mine is. Even if it doesn't fall into my hands today, it will fall into someone else's hands. As long as you surrender to me, your lives will not change at all. Moreover, I'll send people to protect you." After yelling these words, Zhao Fu saw that the grey dwarves did not respond, so he gestured to Bai Qi. Bai Qi immediately ordered 60 ballistae to be brought out. They had made many ballistae over the past few days, and they were all aimed at the grey dwarves. "I'll say it again, I don't want to hurt you, but don't force me." Zhao Fu yelled again, and seeing that there was still no response, he ordered the ballistae to be fired. 100 or so ballistae bolts shot out, giving off a shocking aura. Of course, Zhao Fu did not directly shoot at the grey dwarves, and he instead flew over their head. The ballistae bolts' immense power pierced through their wooden houses. Seeing how powerful the ballistae were, there was finally some movement from the grey dwarf village. A big bearded grey dwarf walked out and yelled, "Sir, will you really keep your promise? As long as we surrender to you, will you really not change our lives, and will you send people to protect us?" Zhao Fu knew that he was not sending these grey dwarves to fight. Their value lay in their forging. Moreover, with so much bronze concentrate mine, these 1,000 grey dwarves would not be able to use it all in 10 or so years. As such, he nodded and said, "As Qin Qin's legatee, I promise you." Following this, the big bearded grey dwarf and the other grey dwarves knelt down and expressed their willingness to surrender. Even though the grey dwarves had bad tempers at times, most of them were quite honest, loyal, and straightforward. As such, seeing that they were no match for Zhao Fu, they immediately chose to surrender. Seeing that they had surrendered, Zhao Fu felt quite happy, and he led his people in to take over the grey dwarf village. Zhao Fu was only going to conquer it and did not plan to relocate it. This grey dwarf village's grade was only normal grade, and it was called Road Village. The leader from before was Chief Road. Chapter 57. The surprise that Road had given to Zhao Fu was that apart from the armor and weapons that they were wearing, they had also forged 4,000 pieces of armor and weapons. Hearing this, Zhao Fu was delighted and hurriedly asked Road to take him to have a look. A while later, Road brought Zhao Fu to a large warehouse, which was filled with bronze armor and weapons. They gave off a metallic light, and Zhao Fu felt as if he had entered a treasure trove. Zhao Fu couldn't help but go up and have a look. Bronze fine armor, grade, blue, stats, strength +1, constitution +1, description. High-grade armor forged from bronze fine. Bronze fine sword, grade, blue, stats. Strength +1, agility +1, description. High-grade sword forged from bronze fine. All of them were high-quality items, and they all gave 2 stats, so they could be sold for 600 or so silver coins. At the same time, with these pieces of equipment, the Qin village would be able to upgrade their equipment, and their strength would greatly increase. Moreover, with this massive bronze fine ore, they wouldn't need the corroded equipment from the region of bones anymore. Suddenly, Zhao Fu suddenly thought of a good way to earn money. Since he didn't need the equipment from the region of bones, he didn't need the blue-grade weapons. If he wanted a large number of them, he could sell them. Right now, Liwen could bring out 100 or so pieces of equipment every day, but he didn't have enough people. He still had to forge other equipment, so repairing them would take a long time. Now that he had 1,000 grey dwarves, he could quickly repair them. Moreover, he could sell all of the 1,000 or so pieces of equipment that the soldiers were wearing. Of course, Zhao Fu wasn't going to sell these pieces of equipment to a shop. Instead, he planned to open a shop. If he sold these pieces of equipment to a shop, he would only be able to earn 300 silver coins each, but if he sold them himself, he would be able to sell them for 400 silver coins each. Suddenly, after thinking of this method of earning money, Zhao Fu felt quite happy. He was one step closer to the god-refining plan, and he went to the Grey Dwarf barracks to have a look. Dwarf Warrior, F+ grade military description. A powerful warrior among the dwarves, effect. Receives skill swing after changing professions. Dwarf Blacksmith, D- grade military description. A dwarf who has maximized the dwarf's talent, effect. Receives skill enhanced blacksmith. The dwarf blacksmith was a special type of soldier. It was also a D- grade soldier, which could be said to be very powerful. Zhao Fu's demon priest was also D- grade, but Zhao Fu's demon priest was a combat profession, while the dwarf's demon priest was a support profession. Moreover, with the dwarf's innate forging talent, this profession was definitely very powerful. Right now, Road Village was an intermediate village, so the upper limit of dwarven blacksmiths was 10. After looking at Road Village, Zhao Fu started to make arrangements. The value of this massive bronze concentrate mine was immeasurable, and it would definitely be enough to make anyone go crazy. Even system main cities would want to steal it. Therefore, Zhao Fu had to leave 2,000 soldiers here and forbid any creatures within a 10-mile radius from entering this place. It could be said that this place would be an important lifeline for Qin in the future. Following this, Zhao Fu constructed a teleportation channel here to make it easier to travel to and from Qin village in the future. As for the remaining 1,400 soldiers, Zhao Fu split them into 2 teams and gave them to Zhang Dahu, Sardok, and a few other generals to explore the Forest of Horrors and attack some basic villages. Now, these basic villages had become pieces of meat in Zhao Fu's mouth, waiting to be eaten. If they found an intermediate village, they would gather together to attack, and if they found an advanced village, Zhao Fu would personally attack. As such, Zhao Fu didn't personally lead the attack on basic and intermediate villages, and he left it to his subordinate. Now, Zhao Fu had 20 villages under his control. 8 were human villages, 4 were goblin villages, 3 were gnome villages, 2 were kobold villages, 1 was orc village, 1 was elf village, and 1 was grey dwarf village. Adding on Qin village's population, Zhao Fu would be able to gain at least 130 people per day. In just 3 days, he would be able to gain as much population as a basic village, so Zhao Fu decided to slow down on his population growth. After returning to Qin village, Zhao Fu first went to Holy Light City and bought a spatial ring. Zhao Fu had wanted to buy one for a long time, but he had forgotten about it many times. However, spatial rings were quite expensive. A 10 square meter spatial ring cost 10 gold coins. After buying one, Zhao Fu returned to the Great Qin village and took with him the large amount of money and equipment that the Great Qin village had obtained over the past few days to open a shop in Holy Light City. Just as Zhao Fu was about to leave, Lu Mei suddenly rushed out and blocked in front of Zhao Fu. Behind her was the 15-year-old elf, Asani. Zhao Fu had no idea how the two of them had gotten together. At that moment, Lu Mei looked at Zhao Fu unhappily and said, "Your Majesty, I also want to go to a system main city to have a look. I also want to go to the system main cities. Why don't you bring me along?" "Why would I take you with me? I have things to do at a system main city," Zhao Fu replied curiously. "Then you can take me with you. I'm so pretty, and I'll be able to help your Majesty gain face," Lu Mei said confidently without a trace of modesty. Seeing Lu Mei like this, Zhao Fu didn't know what to say. Lu Mei was indeed quite beautiful, and she was the seductive type. Bringing her with him would help him gain face, but it would also bring him a lot of trouble. As such, Zhao Fu immediately refused and said, "No." Hearing Zhao Fu's reply, Lu Mei went over and hugged his arm and rubbed her large chest against him as she said coquettishly, "Your Majesty, I want to go. I want to go, and Sister Asani also wants to go." Zhao Fu felt a chill run down his spine, and he felt goosebumps all over his body. Hearing Lu Mei's words, Zhao Fu looked at Asani, who was beside him. Asani's childish face still looked quite fearful when facing Zhao Fu, but she still did her best to nod as she looked at Zhao Fu with a hopeful gaze. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu couldn't help but nod and agree. However, he said that he would take them to the system main city to have a look after opening the shop in Holy Light City. Hearing Zhao Fu's reply, Lu Mei happily laughed and let go of Zhao Fu before running off with Asani. Chapter 58. After teleporting to Holy Light City, just as Zhao Fu was about to go to the real estate office, he saw a player's stall filled with carvings of various real-life animals. There were pandas, dolphins, and penguins, and they attracted the attention of many residents. Zhao Fu suddenly thought of something. Opening a restaurant here would be a good idea. He could bring in all sorts of food from the real world, such as hot pot and teppanyaki. Food was the most important thing to the people, and they could go crazy over food. As such, it was quite profitable to sell food here, as the residents were quite wealthy. After making up his mind, Zhao Fu went to the real estate office. This time, Zhao Fu had brought almost all of his money, 103 gold coins in total, and 45 gold coins from the high-grade orc tribe. Zhao Fu bought a 100-square-meter house in 2 bustling streets for 25 gold coins, and a 400-square-meter house for 65 gold coins, for a total of 90 gold coins. Right now, Zhao Fu only had this much money. In actuality, Zhao Fu knew that the players were quite poor right now, but in the future, the players would definitely become rich. After all, there was strength in numbers. Adding on the house that he had bought for Jiang Rou and these 2 houses, Zhao Fu had a total of 3 houses. As a third-ranked baron, he could buy 10 houses at will. After raising his status, he would be able to buy even more houses. At the same time, he would be able to go to Soldier Forest and Demon Tree City to buy houses. For now, he would have to wait for the restaurant and equipment shop to become profitable. Perhaps there were also people who wanted to open restaurants, but they couldn't buy houses right now. As such, he could only let Zhao Fu do it first. Moreover, he had helped Jiang Rou buy a house, and he knew that she was going to open a cloth shop. According to her, she had obtained a 7 arts weaving technique. Even though the cloth she created was only of ordinary grade, it was incredibly beautiful and would attract many female customers. Of course, when Zhao Fu helped Jiang Rou buy the house, he had also left behind a backup plan. Even though he knew that Jiang Rou wouldn't do anything that would harm his interests, the Jiang family might. After all, the Jiang family's interests were the most important. Therefore, Zhao Fu also left a backup plan. Although that property was bought with the Jiang family's money, it was under his own name. At that time, the highest status of the Jiang family was only that of a citizen. They couldn't buy or transfer ownership, so Zhao Fu openly left this as a backup plan. If they dared to do anything, Zhao Fu would not hesitate to take back the shop. Zhao Fu didn't want to be the kind of person who helped others out of kindness, only to be cheated in the end. The 100-square-meter equipment shop only needed a few simple renovations before it could be put into operation. However, the restaurant needed to be exquisitely renovated. The first-floor hall could hold more than 90 tables, the second floor could be made into 12 private rooms, and the third floor could be made into 4 supreme VIP rooms. I spent another 30 gold coins to hire people to decorate the shop. I also needed to hire a chef and waiters. I could use my own people in the equipment shop. I just needed to list the price and sell it. However, there were many people in a restaurant, and if I wasn't careful, I might be exposed. As such, apart from the manager of the restaurant, Zhao Fu hired players. Zhao Fu hung a sign outside the restaurant, saying that he was hiring 15 waiters, but only women. They had to be able to work hard, and their monthly salary was 3,000 copper coins. At the same time, he was hiring 5 chefs, male or female. They had to be able to cook all sorts of dishes in the real world, and their monthly salary was 8,000 copper coins. As soon as Zhao Fu's sign appeared, it immediately attracted many people. Even though the monthly salary was 3,000 copper coins, that was 30,000 copper coins in the real world. The waiters had a monthly salary of 30,000 copper coins, and the chef's salaries were quite good as well. Many people started to apply for the job. It was quite easy to choose waiters, and they only had to choose good-looking women who weren't spoiled. As for the chefs, they had to be carefully considered. Even though all of them said that they could cook anything and looked like they had great cooking skills, no one would know if they didn't try it. As such, Zhao Fu brought these people to the kitchen and had them use the simplest ingredients to see what they could make. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, they started to work. They first picked out all sorts of basic ingredients such as carrots, cucumbers, potatoes, and so on. After washing the ingredients, they started to work with their knives. Zhao Fu stood to the side and observed. Their knives quickly danced on the chopping board, cutting the ingredients into strips. Indeed, every one of them looked like a chef, and from their knife skills, it seemed that none of them had snuck in. Zhao Fu also saw a skinny young man whose knife skills were simply superb. He pressed a piece of white carrot onto the chopping board, and he didn't even need to look at it. His knife seemed to be moving rhythmically on the chopping board, producing a series of beautiful sounds. He himself looked like a graceful pianist. This made Zhao Fu feel a bit of anticipation towards the dishes he cooked. He had heard that he was called Huqing, and that he was slightly older than him. Now that Zhao Fu was wearing a cloak, they were unable to see Zhao Fu's true appearance. They only knew that he was a man, and everyone was quite curious about the identity of this mysterious boss. Apart from the original residence, this was the first restaurant opened by a player. Just this alone was enough to attract people, and the black cloak he was wearing added a bit of mystery. Following this, everyone started to cook. Huqing once again caused Zhao Fu's eyes to light up. He flipped the wok, and the ingredients flew high into the air before falling back into the wok. He lightly sprinkled a handful of seasonings, and everything was as smooth as moving clouds and flowing water. The most anticipated moment had arrived. Everyone finished cooking a dish and placed it in front of Zhao Fu. The 15 girls that Zhao Fu had recruited watched curiously from the side. Of course, they were looking forward to Huqing the most. Looking at his knife skills and cooking skills, they could tell that he was definitely a master. Zhao Fu was also looking forward to Huqing the most. He couldn't help but pick up his chopsticks and taste the plate of stir-fried shredded white carrot. This plate of stir-fried shredded white carrots were all the same size and were extremely neat. They were as white as snow, and they didn't look like they had been stir-fried at all. There were even some chopped green onions on top of them, and they gave off a faint sweet fragrance. Zhao Fu picked up some with his chopsticks and gently placed it in his mouth. He raised his teeth and chewed for a bit, but Zhao Fu's expression stiffened and he spat out the food in his mouth. "Sorry, I take back what I said. I take back what I said. As expected, a flood has forced our way in. Why did this dish look so good, but it tasted so bad?" Zhao Fu hadn't added any salt or sweetness, but it just tasted so bad that it couldn't be described. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu spit out the food that he had just placed in his mouth, and they felt quite confused. The other chefs let out a sigh of relief. It was evident that they had one less competitor. Huqing awkwardly laughed as he said, "Boss, why did you spit it out? Is it not to your taste? This is a flavor that I've specially developed." Chapter 59. The others also walked over with strange expressions. Just like Zhao Fu, they knew that this dish of stir-fried shredded radish would be incredibly delicious. However, when they saw Zhao Fu vomit as soon as he ate it, they all felt quite confused. After walking over, they all took a bite, and in the next second they all vomited. This made Huaqing feel incredibly awkward, and he could only stand there and sigh. Following this, Zhao Fu tried a few other dishes, and they all tasted quite good. The last dish he tasted was also stir-fried shredded radish, and it looked quite similar to Huaqing's dish. However, Zhao Fu had been tricked once, and he felt quite conflicted. However, for the sake of fairness, Zhao Fu still took a bite. Immediately, Zhao Fu felt that this dish definitely wasn't something that could be made by an ordinary person. The stir-fried shredded radish was sweet and refreshing, and it wasn't spicy at all. It was crispy, and it was incredibly delicious. It made people want to take another bite after taking one bite. Who made this? Zhao Fu asked as he looked up at the chefs. At that moment, a tall and slim figure wearing an ancient-style dress and a veil appeared. However, anyone could tell that she was a classic beauty. However, this beauty and her cooking skills definitely didn't come here just for the 8,000 copper coins. Zhao Fu's expression became serious as he said to the others, "Everyone, please leave for a moment. I'll announce the results later." The others also felt something and left one after another. On the other hand, when Huaqing saw the look on Zhao Fu's face, as if he had eaten a delicious meal, he understood that he had met a true grandmaster. He chuckled as he ran over and passionately said to the mysterious woman, "Beauty, I'll take you as my teacher later." After saying this, Huaqing happily ran out. "Who are you? My little restaurant can't hold a god like you," Zhao Fu said as he looked at the mysterious woman. The mysterious woman smiled and said, "I'm not some deity, I'm just a commoner who cares about food." Hearing those words, Zhao Fu was taken aback for a moment before his expression turned even more solemn. He had not expected to run into someone from the 100 schools of philosophers so soon. Regarding food as the sky, it could only be the school of gourmet of the 100 schools of philosophers. You people from the 100 schools of philosophers are very noble. My small store can't keep a big shot like you. Please look for a higher place. Every single person from the 100 schools of thought was incredibly dangerous. Before Zhao Fu could ascertain her intentions, how could he dare to let her live? Anyone who looked down on the 100 schools of thought would die a horrible death. The woman could hear the wariness in Zhao Fu's voice, but she didn't get angry at Zhao Fu's refusal. Her expression didn't change, and she still had a faint smile on her face as she said with the posture of a classical beauty, "Sir, there's no need to be so wary of the school of gourmet. We're just a group of nobodies with no ambitions, and we're not interested in fighting for the world. We just want to find a peaceful place to cook and see the satisfied smiles on our customers' faces." Hearing this, Zhao Fu's wariness slightly decreased, but he still asked, "How do you know that I can give you a peaceful place?" "Sir, you're wrong. Even though the people from the 100 schools of thought belong to the same branch, they all have their own masters. Some do it for their faith, some do it for their grand ambitions, and some do it for the world's peace. I can't represent the entire school of gourmet, but I can represent myself. If you can give me a peaceful place, don't say that you don't have that ability." "Your Majesty!" Immediately, Zhao Fu was startled, and his gaze became cold as he looked at the woman and asked, "How do you know who I am?" The mysterious woman lightly laughed and replied, "Even though I'm from the school of gourmet, my younger sister is the lesser arbiter of fate, one of the school of yin-yang's 5 elements branch. As such, I have some understanding of the school of yin-yang's yin-yang technique." "Yin-yang techniques?" Zhao Fu frowned. What kind of woman was this? Even if he had seen God Kerr with his own eyes, he would have thought that it was just an extremely powerful creature, and he didn't really believe in such mystical things. However, China was incredibly vast and profound, and perhaps there were such miraculous techniques. At that moment, the mysterious woman explained, "Your Majesty, I saw the fate above your head. It's the black golden dragon light, which is a type of fate that only those who have obtained a nation's legacy have. That's why I knew who you were." Hearing this, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. She only knew that he was a nation's legatee, and only a portion of his identity had been revealed. "Your Majesty, since you want to hide your identity so much, this item can help you hide your fate. However, it won't be able to help you hide your fate in the real world. Even though you can't bring anything from the Heaven-Awakened world back to the real world, fate can't be stopped. However, don't worry about meeting people from the school of Yin-Yang or the school of Taoism. Most people won't be able to see through the Son of Heaven's fate." As she spoke, the mysterious woman handed over an ordinary-looking jade pendant to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at it curiously. Hidden jade pendant. Description: an ordinary jade pendant that has been strengthened by a yin-yang technique and can hide one's fate. Zhao Fu was quite shocked and looked at the description. After using the yin-yang technique, the system had actually acknowledged the existence of the yin-yang technique. Such a mystical thing was actually real. The 100 schools of thought's abilities were simply unfathomable. Zhao Fu temporarily believed the mysterious woman's words. Of course, Zhao Fu would only take her in as a chef and wouldn't reveal anything else to her. Zhao Fu looked at her and said, "I can take you in, but I hope that what you said is true. Otherwise, don't blame me for being heartless." The mysterious woman lightly nodded. From her introduction, Zhao Fu knew that her name was He Xianru. Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. Thinking about how the people outside were still waiting for the results, he turned and walked out. Seeing Zhao Fu leave, He Xianru revealed a smile that could topple a nation under her white veil and followed behind Zhao Fu. After walking outside and looking at the people waiting for the results, Zhao Fu announced that He Xianru and the other 4 people had successfully applied for the position. As for Hu Qing, that shameless person, he was naturally not hired. The others who weren't hired left in disappointment, but Hu Qing ran over to He Xianru's side and said, "Beauty, please take me as your disciple. Don't worry, I won't embarrass you in the future." Okay. Everyone, including Hu Qing, was dumbfounded. They had never thought that He Xianru would agree so easily. Seeing this, Zhao Fu accepted the shameless person as well. He was quite good at chopping vegetables and doing odd jobs. Chapter 60. The restaurant was called the Westfall Restaurant because when they bought it, the sun was setting in the west, dyeing half the sky red. The sunset was truly beautiful. As for the equipment shop, Zhao Fu remembered that the equipment sold there had been forged for a long time and looked quite simple, so he named it the Antiquarian Equipment Shop. After dealing with these matters, Zhao Fu still hadn't opened for business, but he had already sold a lot of equipment. Zhao Fu took 100 gold coins and went to a building. This building was where Holy Light City's internal affairs officer resided. After taking off his cloak, Zhao Fu smiled as he walked over and stuffed a few silver coins into the guard's hands. Adding on Zhao Fu's third-ranked baron status, the guard quickly reported and invited Zhao Fu in. Arriving at the living room, Zhao Fu saw a fair-skinned and chubby middle-aged man sitting on a chair. Zhao Fu stepped forward and saluted, "Greetings, the Minister of Internal Affairs." Although Zhao Fu's status as a third-rank baron could earn the respect of the natives, it was nothing in the eyes of the Internal Affairs officer, who had already grasped a lot of power. Seeing this, a trace of a smile appeared on the Internal Affairs officer's chubby face as he gestured with his hand. "Sir, please take a seat. What business do you have with me?" Zhao Fu sat on a chair beside him and said with a smile, "I've opened 2 shops in Sacred Light City. I've heard of Lord Internal Affairs Officer's name, so I've come to pay a visit." Immediately after, Zhao Fu handed over the small pouch that contained 100 gold coins and said, "A small salute, please do not mind it." The internal affairs officer looked at the glittering gold coin pouch and took it. There seemed to be 100 gold coins in the pouch, and the internal affairs officer's smile became more cordial as he said, "Sir, feel free to visit me. I will welcome you with open arms, but there's no need to bring gifts in the future." As he spoke, the internal affairs officer stuffed the money bag into his pocket without leaving a trace. Zhao Fu did not believe him at all. He had asked around about him before, or else he would not have come to find him. Seeing the internal affairs officer accept the money pouch, Zhao Fu hurriedly replied, "Yes, yes, I'll give it to you. I understand, and I hope that you can take care of us in the future." The internal affairs officer nodded with a smile. "That's for sure. Do you know that you can hire 10 soldiers?" Zhao Fu understood that he was about to be rewarded, so he pretended to be confused and shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. When the internal affairs officer saw this, he said, "Recently, some unruly commoners have been causing trouble, and the Holy Lights ministers are in a bit of a mess. I'll make the decision to send 20 soldiers to guard you." Zhao Fu felt quite delighted. From what he knew, it cost at least 10 gold coins to hire a stage 1 soldier per month, and 10 stage 1 soldiers per month was already 100 gold coins. Now, he was being given 20 stage 1 soldiers for free, which was worth more than 100 gold coins. However, in the future, he would have to give gifts more often. There was nothing he could do about this. If he wanted to do well in this place, he would have to interact with the governmental officials and improve his friendship. "Thank you, Lord Internal Affairs Officer," Zhao Fu said. After chatting for a while, he put on his cloak and returned to the restaurant with the 20 soldiers. By now, Zhao Fu had ordered people to prepare a few tables of food and wine, and he said to the soldiers, "Everyone, please don't hold back. These are all on me, so please do your best in the future." The soldiers looked quite hesitant. They were here to guard, not to eat and drink. Seeing this, Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Everyone, don't worry. I'm the one who told you to eat, so don't worry about it." Hearing this, the soldiers looked at the delicacies on the table and felt quite embarrassed as they said, "Thank you, boss." Following this, the soldiers sat down at the table and wolfed down their food. They didn't often go to restaurants, and the restaurants of the indigenous residents here were incredibly expensive. After taking care of the soldiers, Zhao Fu ordered the servants to make more dishes and opened the doors. He then yelled, "Everything is free for all residents of Holy Light City. Please eat as much as you want, but please note that all players must pay for their meals." Right now, the players were quite poor, and there were many of them. If Zhao Fu didn't restrict them after Zhao Fu finished yelling, it was likely that all of the residents would be players, and the indigenous residents wouldn't even be able to squeeze in. If Zhao Fu wanted his business to be good, he had to let people know that his food was good. Looking at the exotic delicacies on the table, the indigenous residents felt quite curious, but since it was free, they didn't hold back and started to eat. Zhao Fu left behind 10 soldiers to maintain order before returning to the equipment shop and yelling that everything was 20% off. He then officially opened the shop, and with 10 stage 1 soldiers standing guard, he did not have to worry about anyone coming to cause trouble. This was especially so for the Zhou family. If they didn't know what was good for them, Zhao Fu wanted to find an opportunity to get rid of them. Just like that, the first day passed. The restaurant didn't make any profits, and it even lost a lot of money. However, business on the second day was even better than on the first day. This was because the people who had eaten here went back and talked about it, and countless people came over with curiosity in their hearts. The equipment store sold 400 pieces of equipment on the first day, earning a massive 1,600 gold coins. After selling so many pieces of equipment at once, Zhao Fu felt that he would run out of stock in a few days. As such, he decided to sell some of the white-grade equipment that he didn't want to sell. In order to increase his attractiveness, Zhao Fu also put out a few silver-grade weapons. Right now, there weren't many silver-grade equipment in the system's shops. Apart from this, Zhao Fu also put out a few refined martial souls. Normally, refined martial souls would give skills of different grades. Sometimes, even the lowest grade skills would be F grade, but they were priced around 1 to 2 gold coins. Zhao Fu's refined martial souls could give C grade skills at the very least, but because they were all physical skills, they were priced around 20 gold coins. Whether it was the silver-grade weapons or the refined martial souls, Zhao Fu didn't want to sell any of them. As such, Zhao Fu's prices were quite exorbitant. For a piece of equipment that originally cost 4,000 silver coins, Zhao Fu offered 40,000 silver coins. For a refined martial soul that originally cost 20 gold coins, Zhao Fu offered 200 gold coins. In order to increase his attractiveness, Zhao Fu added an introduction to the silver-grade equipment. Every piece of equipment was obtained from a heaven-shaking ancient battle. Every piece of equipment contained powerful ancient power, and ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect its existence. It would only wait for a fated person to discover its value, allowing it to regain its glory. There was also the refined martial soul. Zhao Fu also added an introduction to it. It was left behind by an ancient divine spirit and contained immense power. Legend had it that it could give an SSS-grade transcendent skill. However, ordinary people wouldn't be able to comprehend its profoundness. Ha! After Zhao Fu made these introductions, no one dared to say that the refined martial souls were fake. If they did, they would be considered ordinary people with poor taste. Chapter 61. Whether it was restaurants or equipment shops, business was booming. Seeing the money flowing into his pockets like water, Zhao Fu was naturally quite happy. At the same time, Zhao Fu also attracted the attention of the large families and other factions. There were 6 large families in the Forest of Horrors, and they used this place as their main area of development. Because the people who entered the Heaven Awakened world were randomly selected, only a small portion of the large families gathered in the Forest of Horrors. Everyone else was scattered, and there were many reasons why they chose the Forest of Horrors as their main area of development. Some felt that there was less competition, others felt that it was a good place to develop, and some felt that the next generation's legatee was here. The 6 large families were the Jiang family, Zhang family, Chao family, Yan family, Hua family, and Zhou family. Apart from them, there were also 3 major factions made up of players: the Holy Light Group, the Soldier Alliance, and the Demon Tree Gang. From their names, they were the largest player factions in the 3 main cities. There were also some small fries that didn't need to be mentioned. Of these 3 great powers, some were formed by financial groups in the real world, some were formed purely by friends, and some were formed purely by a group of gangsters and an ambitious boss. Before, when Zhao Fu's identity had been revealed, they had all treated it as a joke. However, now they were quite skeptical. Putting aside whether or not Zhao Fu was a legatee, just from the fact that he did not need blue-grade equipment and was willing to sell silver-grade equipment and refined martial souls, it was evident how powerful he was. Even though Zhao Fu had only opened 2 shops by himself, the threat he posed far surpassed everyone else. In the real world, Zhou Jie was angrily kicked to the ground by his father, Zhou Shizhi. "This is what you get for causing trouble everywhere, and now you've provoked an opponent of unknown strength." There was also a young man next to him. He was a few years older than Zhou Jie, but he was the Zhou family's young master, Zhou Ming. Zhou Ming watched as his little brother was kicked a few times before walking over and saying, "All right, father, it's enough. Father, that's enough. We've already taught Jie a lesson, and we haven't made a big mistake yet. We haven't reached a point where we won't stop until one of us is dead. We should hurry up and develop our forces. The Jiang family has already obtained a shop, and just by selling cloth, we can earn 20 gold coins a day." Hearing this, Zhou Shizhi coldly harumphed and stopped. Following this, he started to discuss some matters with Zhou Ming. Zhou Jie's face was bruised as he slowly raised his head and looked at the two people talking, feeling a trace of hatred in his heart. On the other side, Zhao Fu put up a sign in front of the equipment shop, saying that he was taking all silver grade and above materials. At the same time, he could use the items in the shop to exchange for them. Even though Zhao Fu didn't lack blue-grade equipment, he didn't have enough silver-grade equipment. Right now, only the 5 grey dwarves from the road village were able to forge silver-grade equipment. Because the great Qin village's Wang Daor had only been forging for a relatively short time, he was only on the verge of forging silver-grade equipment. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu took the money and bought the other 7 properties that he had his eyes on before returning to Qin village and teleporting to another system main city, Soldier Forest. This was the first time that Zhao Fu had come to Soldier Forest, and after teleporting, he found that it wasn't much different from Holy Light City. The streets were quite wide and there were many people. The only difference was that the military here was quite strict. Zhao Fu went to the real estate office and bought another 10 properties. At the same time, Zhao Fu planned to open a Westfall restaurant here, and he started to recruit people. He decided not to open his equipment shop for now, as just the one shop in Holy Light City was already in short supply. Zhao Fu didn't want to sell his bronze concentrate equipment because he didn't want to make his opponents stronger. Only when he had a large amount of silver-grade equipment would Zhao Fu sell them. After talking to the system main city officials, Zhao Fu obtained 10 guards and prepared to open again. At the same time, Zhao Fu went to Demon Tree City and did what he had done before. Currently, there were a total of 3 Westfall restaurants. After a few days of operation, they had brought in a total of 500 gold in profit every day. Including the equipment shops, they made an average of 600 gold a day. Moreover, this was even if they did not have enough equipment. If they had enough equipment, they would make at least 1,000 gold a day. With such a large profit, Zhao Fu started to create a second tunnel exploration team. Just like the first team, there were goblin warriors, archers, and infantrymen. Zhao Fu also bought holy light skills for them. What was strange was that Li Wen's team hadn't even finished exploring a single tunnel. Of course, this wasn't a problem with Li Wen, it was just that the tunnel was too long. The first tunnel had been discovered by accident during a collapse, and the other side had been blocked by massive boulders and mud. As such, Zhao Fu didn't know how long the tunnel was or where it led to. Now that he had so much money, Zhao Fu had to think about other things. The most important thing was that Qin village's energy stones, but it was a pity that Zhao Fu was unable to find an energy stone mine. Right now, the 3 system main cities only controlled a small energy stone mine, and they could only produce 300 to 400 energy stones a day. Just the energy stones alone were a massive sum. 1,000 energy stones was equivalent to 10,000 gold coins. Who knew how many energy stones they would need in the future? Now, for the sake of the god refining plan, Zhao Fu decided to throw caution to the wind. He brought along a snow fox that he had just killed in the Forest of Horrors. This snow fox was an elite creature, and its fur was as white as snow. It was very soft and didn't smell like a fox, and it was blue-grade. If one wanted to equip it into equipment, it would only be worth 500 to 600 silver coins at most. However, if one wanted to make it into a luxurious equipment, it would be worth many times that. It would normally be worth thousands of silver coins, and it would be very popular with noblewomen. After bringing the snow fox's fur, Zhao Fu went to Holy Light City's internal affairs officer. Because the biggest source of energy stones was system main cities, Zhao Fu directly went to find the internal affairs officer. The internal affairs officer had been paying attention to Zhao Fu's matters over the past few days. Zhao Fu was now quite famous in Holy Light City, and many of the higher-ups had mentioned his name. Of course, these higher-ups weren't very interested in Zhao Fu's equipment shop because they all had at least gold-grade equipment. The reason they had mentioned him was because his restaurant had all sorts of exotic delicacies. These higher-ups were also people, so of course they had to eat. As such, they weren't immune to such delicacies. The Westfall restaurant had 12 private rooms and 4 sovereign rooms, and they were often full. Chapter 62. Brother Qin. I've come to pay my respects again. Zhao Fu greeted Qin Nan with a smile. Seeing Zhao Fu, Qin Nan felt quite happy. After all, every time Zhao Fu came, he would bring gift. Qin Nan smiled as she replied, Brother Zhao, it's quite nice to meet you. You're here again. Come. Please sit. Qin Nan passionately welcomed Zhao Fu in and asked, Brother Zhao, what business do you have with me this time? Zhao Fu did not start to explain, and he instead handed over the snow fox fur. Qin Nan took the snow fox fur and lightly stroked it. She felt that it was incredibly soft, and she was delighted that it was top grade. Seeing this, Zhao Fu said, Big brother Qin, I want to buy some crystals. Hearing this, Qin Nan lovingly stroked the snow fox's fur and nodded. How many do you want? 1,000. Zhao Fu replied indifferently. What? Even Qin Nan was shocked by such a large amount. 1,000 crystal stones was equivalent to 10,000 gold coins, so how could Zhao Fu have so many gold coins? However, after thinking about it, just the profits of his shops for 10 days was enough. Although Zhao Fu had the money to buy it, Qin Nan still had a difficult expression on his face, because this thing was not easy to obtain. Energy stones were one of the more important and valuable items, and many people wanted to buy them. Normally, the system main cities would keep a portion of the energy stones that were produced each day and sell the rest, which was why there were so few energy stones in the shop. Qin Nan thought for a while before saying, Brother Zhao, I can sell you 50 crystals per day at most. Although that's a bit small, I'll give you a discount. I'll only sell each crystal for 8 gold coins. Hearing Qin Nan's words, Zhao Fu nodded his head. 50 spar a day, 20 days would be enough. Zhao Fu was not in a hurry for the spirit refining plan, because he still had a lot of things to prepare, and at the same time, he had some spare money to spend on other things every day. Seeing that Zhao Fu had agreed, Qin Nan felt slightly relieved. Big brother Qin, I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first. At this moment, Zhao Fu saw that the matter had been settled and also took his leave. Qin Nan said with a smile, Then brother Zhao should come and play more often. Yes. Zhao Fu quickly replied. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, Zhao Fu finally left. Now, Zhao Fu had a total of 4,680 gold coins on hand, and he took this money with him as he strolled through the various large shops. There were many things that he wanted to buy, but very few of them caught his eye. Zhao Fu bought a spring returning pill, which could quickly heal injuries, as well as a few silver-grade materials. Apart from these, he didn't have any unexpected gains. After teleporting back to the Qin village, Zhao Fu handed the materials and recipes to his subordinates. Seeing that everything had been handled, Zhao Fu thought of what he had promised Lu Mei and Asani. He called them to his side and handed them 2 large cloaks. Lu Mei, don't make any trouble for me. If you do, don't expect me to promise you anything in the future, Zhao Fu reminded Lu Mei. Alright, got it. Lu Mei looked a bit unhappy, but she pulled Zhao Fu towards the teleportation channel. Asani happily followed behind them. Following this, Zhao Fu and the others teleported to Holy Light City. Seeing the bustling crowds and all sorts of new and beautiful goods on the streets, Lu Mei couldn't help but happily laugh, causing people to look at her. Zhao Fu pulled on her and told her to behave. This was the first time that Asani had seen such a scene, and she couldn't help but feel excited. However, she was a bit afraid of the crowds around her, and she pulled on Zhao Fu's cloak. At this moment, Lu Mei saw a candy maker and excitedly pulled Asani over. Seeing how happy they were, Zhao Fu smiled and followed behind them. "Boss, how much is this?" Lu Mei said to the players who were making sugar figurines as she held a sugar mouse in her hand. This player was a middle-aged man, and he also made candy makers in the real world. However, his business in the real world was quite ordinary, and he had an idea to bring this to the Heaven Awaken world. It was incredibly popular, and he made a lot of money. 3 copper coins for one, the boss replied. Lu Mei didn't have any money on her, so she looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu understood and took out a few copper coins to give to the boss, and he told Asani to choose one as well. Asani chose a large tabby cat, and seeing Lu Mei lick it, Asani stuck out her pink tongue and lightly licked it. She felt that it was quite sweet, and she couldn't help but laugh. Hearing her clear laughter, everyone else's moods became much better. At that moment, Lu Mei seemed to discover something, and she pulled Asani away, with Zhao Fu slowly following behind. Following this, they bought many things, and Lu Mei was attracted by a cloth shop, so she dragged Zhao Fu in as well. Jiang Ro was also in the shop, and when she saw 3 cloaked figures walk in, one of whom she was quite familiar with, Jiang Ro called out, "Zhao Exen." That's right, this cloth shop was owned by the Jiang family. Hearing Jiang Ro's call, Zhao Fu nodded. After hearing Zhao Fu's reply, Jiang Ro happily walked over and said, "I never thought that such a busy person like you would come to my shop. Apologies. I've been quite busy lately, so I haven't been able to visit you," Zhao Fu said apologetically. He hadn't expected this. At that moment, Jiang Ro noticed Zhao Fu's tender and white hand, which was clearly not a man's, and asked, "Who are they?" Hearing Jiang Ro's words, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before replying, "They count as my friends. Hello." Lu Mei smiled and said to Jiang Ro as a form of greeting. She then pulled Asani over to pick out the cloth that she liked. "Zhao Xian, thank you so much for helping me by this shop, allowing me to let out a sigh of relief and decide my own fate." Jiang Ro's gentle gaze fell on Zhao Fu's body as she spoke gratefully to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu knew that even though Jiang Ro was a direct descendant of the Jiang family, she was the 3rd child and wasn't the successor of the Jiang family. As such, she was only used as a tool to form a marriage alliance with the Zhou family. She evidently didn't want to marry Zhou Jie, but the pressure from her family and Zhou Jie's constant harassment made it hard for her to breathe. Now that she had this shop, it was of great value to the Jiang family, so she could make her own decisions. Hearing this, Zhao Fu could understand her feelings and lightly shook his head as he said, "It's just a small matter. It's all because of your 7 arts weaving technique that business is doing so well. But I still have to thank you," Jiang Ro insisted. Seeing how insistent Jiang Ro was, Zhao Fu didn't say anything else. At that moment, Lu Mei pulled him to the side and asked what kind of cloth he liked to make clothes out of, and Zhao Fu apologized. Following this, with Zhao Fu's help, Lu Mei and Asani chose a few types of cloth. Zhao Fu also wanted to pay, but Jiang Ro insisted, so Zhao Fu didn't insist. In the end, Zhao Fu brought Lu Mei and Asani back to Qin village. They were both incredibly happy today. Suddenly, a few system announcements sounded out in Zhao Fu's mind. System announcement. Congratulations, your village has leveled up to an advanced village. System announcement. Congratulations, you have been acknowledged by the heavens and earth. You have unlocked the special building, Heaven Prayer Platform. System announcement. Qin's nation fate has awakened, and your subjects have received fate. Chapter 63. After these system announcements sounded out, Zhao Fu still had not reacted. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the Rubik's Cube giving off a noble violet light at the Qin village's city heart clanged in the air. Suddenly, a black light that seemed to be able to devour everything burst through the roof and into the clouds, seeming to pierce through the sky. Boom! The black light tore through the sky, giving off a shocking explosion. At the same time, the black light formed a black pillar of light that stood between the heavens and the earth. In that instant, the weather seemed to change, and the sun and moon seemed to dim, giving off a shocking aura. The blue sky seemed to be dyed black, and traces of black aura rose up from the ground. This black aura was long and looked like a dragon, and it gave off a crystalline light. After rising up from the ground, it flowed into the sky, and all of the residents of the Qin village seemed to be summoned by something. They all knelt on the ground, and Li Si and Bai Qi were no exception. Black clouds began to condense in the sky, slowly forming into a layer of black clouds that covered a radius of 1,000 miles. This black cloud was different from ordinary black clouds. It was pure black, and it gave off a black light that could devour people. From a distance, the sky seemed to be covered by a layer of haze, and it felt as if a world-ending lightning bolt was about to descend. This caused people's hairs to stand on end, and they felt fear in their hearts. Below the sky, all creatures felt a great pressure, as if a pair of large hands had grabbed their hearts, making it difficult for them to breathe. Roar! Suddenly, a powerful dragon's roar shook the heavens and the earth. A savage and domineering black dragon faintly appeared within the black clouds, revealing scales and claws as it gave off a terrifying emperor's spiritual pressure. In Holy Light City, there was an incredibly pure woman in white. In Soldier Forest, there was a man in armor. In Demon Tree City, there was a green-robed elder. In the depths of the Forest of Horrors, there was an evil dragon that was 1,000 meters long and had 6 blood-red eyes on its head. Its body was covered with shiny black scales. There was Great Xia's legatee, CG, Great Shang's legatee, White Mountain's legatee, Great Zhou's legatee, Ji Shinming, and Valley Plains legatee, Lu Yi. When that powerful dragon cry sounded, they were all shocked. They looked into the distance, in the direction of Zhaofu. At this time, above the Qin village, in the black clouds, a ferocious and huge dragon head slowly showed up. A pair of dragon eyes, with a king's domineering will, looked down at Zhaofu. Everything happened so fast that Zhaofu couldn't react in time. But he also understood that it was time for Qin to inherit. It was time for Qin to be recognized by this world. He exhaled softly, closed his eyes, and slowly opened his arms. A black and golden dragon robe slowly appeared out of thin air and gently draped over his body. A black and golden dragon crown also appeared out of thin air and gently covered his head. As Zhaofu moved, mysterious stone bricks appeared under his feet and slowly lifted Zhaofu up. Finally, a 9-meter-wide and 18-meter-high stone platform appeared. Zhaofu stood in the middle of the platform with his eyes slightly closed. He still had the same posture of opening his arms, but at this time, he was wearing a black and golden dragon robe and a black and golden dragon crown. His whole body was emitting an emperor's aura. Clang, 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 clang. 12 huge sword cries suddenly sounded. The huge sword cries directly crushed the sky, and a terrible force broke out, forming a super-strong storm, spreading around the Qin village. In an instant, it was like a disaster. The storm raged, sand and stones were flying, and countless trees were destroyed. At this moment, 12 bronze giants that were 100 meters tall slowly appeared in the sky. Their gazes were cold, and they held swords with both hands. They stabbed towards the sky and gave off a monstrous killing intent, causing the air in the surrounding 100 kilometers to freeze and countless creatures to tremble. At this moment, tens of thousands of rays of light descended from the clouds, and the massive and savage black dragon slowly swam down from the sky and entered Zhaofu's body. Immediately, Zhaofu's body also exploded out with a powerful aura. This aura was filled with nobility and majesty, as well as the domineering aura of supremacy. Under this powerful aura, Lu Mei and Asani knelt on the ground with their foreheads pressed against the ground. Their faces were pale and their bodies trembled. They had never felt such terror before, and they felt as if they were on the brink of death. When commoners were enraged, blood would splatter everywhere. When the Son of Heaven was enraged, corpses would fall 100 kilometers away. This was the majesty of an emperor. Luckily, this aura gradually dissipated, and the abnormal signs in the sky disappeared. Lu Mei and Asani's bodies relaxed, and they were covered with sweat as they powerlessly lay on the ground. The 12 bronze giants in the sky turned into 12 rays of green light and turned into 12 small bronze figures that floated around Zhao Fu. On the stone stage, Zhao Fu slowly opened his eyes, and a black light flashed within them. Zhao Fu's appearance had slightly changed, and his delicate and handsome face now had a trace of majesty. Elsewhere, in Holy Light City, Soldier Forest, and Demon Tree Cities, 3 people looked incredibly serious as they silently looked into the distance. The 1,000-meter-long flood dragon in the Forest of Horrors looked away and crawled back to the ground. However, it felt uncomfortable, so it moved to the side and moved further away from Qin Village. CG, Di Wutian, Ji Shinming, and Lu Yi felt their bloodlines become restless and their hearts palpitate. They understood that another powerful opponent had appeared. The 4 of them had just leveled up their villages to advanced villages and obtained the Heaven and Earth Fate legacy. Even though they did not have as many residents as Zhao Fu, they had a large number of players. Perhaps there were other dynasties that had also leveled up their villages to advanced villages and obtained fate, but none of them had ever been so fearful. The 4 of them understood who this person was. The only person who could make them feel such a threat was Qin's legatee, who had yet to show himself. Qin could be said to be the most murderous dynasty in China. Historically, it had destroyed many countries, ended the Warring States period, and unified China. In terms of fate, Great Xia represented the orthodoxy of Huaxia, and its fate was represented by the golden divine dragon light. Great Shang had all sorts of rituals and divination, and it represented the mysterious azure dragon emperor light. Great Zhou divided the world, and it represented the 9-headed dragon light. Great Han represented the rule of Confucianism, and it represented the auspicious and gentle yellow dragon light. Only Qin was in charge of killing, and its fate was the black and golden dragon light. Perhaps later on, there were people who had the black and golden dragon light and achieved great things in chaotic times. However, they could not compare to Qin's black and golden dragon light at all. Finally, looking at nation armaments were created by gathering fate and the power of the people. The Great Xia dynasty had the 9 provinces cauldrons, which could suppress the fate of the world. The Great Shang dynasty had the star-picking tower, which could observe the stars in the sky. The Great Zhou dynasty had the investiture of the gods, which could grant titles to officials. Great Han had the White Emperor's sword, which could slay dragons. Chapter 64. That was why the 4 of them were so wary of Qin. At first, they had felt a trace of hope towards Qin's legatee, as he had not received the Ying family's support. However, it seemed that that trace of hope was gone, or Qin had started to bare his fangs at them, and this weighed heavily on their hearts. The 4 of them looked into the distance, unable to calm down. Within Holy Light City, He Xianru stood on the 3rd floor of the Westfall restaurant as she looked into the distance. A violet light flashed in her eyes as she slowly looked down and found that there was a trace of aura around her that ordinary people could not detect. This trace of aura was black and looked like a dragon. She naturally knew what it was, and a trace of a smile appeared on her face. Elsewhere, Zhao Fu opened his eyes and opened his stats window because he had received a new title. Qin's legatee, the legatee of the Qin Empire. The kingdom's fate has been bestowed upon him. After looking at the description of the title, Zhao Fu did not quite understand what fate was. He looked at the black golden dragon robe and the black golden dragon crown that he was wearing. It was not shown that they were equipment, as they were created from fate. Qin black golden dragon robe. Only the legatee of Qin can wear it, and it is a symbol of supremacy. Qin black golden dragon crown. Only the legatee of Qin can wear it, and it is a symbol of supremacy. Following this, Zhao Fu looked at the bronze figurines floating around him and stretched out his hand, causing the 12 bronze figurines to fly into his hand. 12 metal figurines. White, an artifact forged from the world's weapons. It can suppress a kingdom's fate. Note: do not use it casually. Every time you use the 12 metal figurines, it will consume a large amount of fate. At the same time, you can obtain a large amount of fate to level up. Fate again. It seemed that he would have to understand fate more in the future. Zhao Fu thought to himself and looked at the stone platform he was standing on. Heaven Prayer Platform. A special structure of a kingdom's legacy village. It can be leveled up with the village. Special stats. Resistance to natural disasters plus 30%, chance of spawning S grade or above villagers plus 15%. This Heaven Prayer Platform was probably a special building that would only appear after obtaining a nation's legacy. It was impossible for an ordinary family's legacy to have one, and it mainly gave 2 additional attributes: Calamity Grade and S Grade. There were many natural disasters in the real world, such as droughts, floods, snowstorms, and so on. The crops that the village was growing now seemed to have good weather, but in the future they might be attacked. Natural disaster resistance was probably immunity to these. Second, the spawn rate of S grade and above could be said to be an attribute that was very lacking. One must know that Qin Village had yet to spawn an S grade, which showed how difficult it was to obtain one. After checking all these, Zhao Fu slowly walked down the Heaven Prayer Platform. This was his first time wearing the dragon robe and crown, so he was not used to it. Zhao Fu walked to the bottom of the stone stage and saw Lu Mei and Asani lying on the ground. He quickly walked over and helped them up as he asked caringly, "Are you all right?" Lu Mei and Asani shook their heads with pale faces. They still hadn't recovered from the terrifying king's aura. "Congratulations, Your Highness! Congratulations, Your Highness! You have obtained the Fate Legacy." Li Si and his group smiled and saluted as they spoke. Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. He had them help Lu Mei down to rest while he went to the city heart in the village hall. He stretched out the 12 copper colossi, and they automatically flew up and hovered next to the city heart. Seeing this, Zhao Fu returned to the real world and looked at the information regarding fate. He found that fate referred to fate and fate. In the ancient text Jie Yu Rhapsody, it said, "Feeling the smoothness of fate, I rejoice in the success of the times." Luck, it was all about luck. In the Dream Creek brushwork, elephant number, it also said, "Minor illnesses also follow the rise and fall of fate." What they meant was that a person's fate, no matter if they were nobles or commoners, as small as a person or as large as a kingdom, they all had their own fate. It was incredibly profound, and it determined the fate of a person or a kingdom. When fate was present, one's path would be smooth, and when fate was gone, one's path would be filled with countless difficulties. After hearing this explanation, Zhao Fu understood how important fate was. Even though fate was digitized in the Heaven Awakened world, it truly existed. It was right next to him, but he couldn't touch it. After looking at the explanation of fate, Zhao Fu opened the Heaven Awakened World Forum to see if there was anything new. He found that a faction that countless families had been paying attention to had finally revealed itself. Of course, it was China in the real world. In terms of legacies, China's legacies could not even compare to an ordinary family's legacies. After all, ordinary families could at least obtain a blue-grade magic cube, but modern countries were unable to obtain any legacies. China was not in a rush in this regard, as there were countless other countries that were even more anxious than it, such as America. It had only been established 200 or so years ago, and it was a modern country. It did not have any legacies in the Heaven Awakened world, while other countries had their own history and could obtain legacies. America did not have such a thing, and in terms of legacies, it had fallen from being the most powerful country to the weakest. However, in the real world, it had gone mad and used money to buy everything useful, relying on its massive wealth to barely maintain its position as a powerful country. Out of these modern countries, the one that shined the brightest was undoubtedly China. After all, in ancient times, the entire world's civilization had been centered around China, and it had only started to fall behind in modern times. As such, China was said to be the largest war zone in the heaven-awakened world. In reality, China was divided into countless large families, but it was still the backbone of China. In terms of legacies, it could not compare to any of the large families, but in terms of resources and numbers, none of the large families could compare. China could do whatever it wanted in the heaven-awakened world, but as long as it maintained some sort of order in the real world, it would be fine. After all, if the real world collapsed, it would not be beneficial to anyone. As such, in the heaven-awakened world, China appeared to be very quiet, but that was not necessarily the case in the shadows. There were traces of soldiers in countless places, and it was evident that China was secretly developing, and its faction was quite shocking. They had wanted to develop in the shadows and have these large families fight to the death before destroying them and establishing a kingdom in the heaven-awakened world. They had never thought that they would be exposed so quickly. At that moment, a certain general stood out and spoke, promoting patriotism and calling for more support for the country and a peaceful future. A peaceful future. Chapter 65. After looking through the forum's contents, Zhao Fu called someone to bring him some food. As Ying Shi's chess piece, he had many benefits, and Zhao Fu didn't have to go out anymore. This was for Zhao Fu's safety, and he didn't have to worry about being poisoned. All of the large families had strict control over what they ate, so there wouldn't be any accidents. After eating, Zhao Fu returned to the heaven-awakened world. The next day, a golden light flashed at the origin, and a system announcement congratulated an SS-grade person. Zhao Fu was delighted and hurriedly ran over to have a look. Qin Village was already an advanced village, and it spawned around 45 to 50 people per day. The SS-grade person was a fair-skinned young man. Name: Xia Minggrade. SS title: None profession. Merchant achievement points: Commoner 300 race, human age 22 100 loyalty, 80 stats, strength 6 intelligence, 10 constitution, 8 agility, 7 cultivation, stage 0 cultivation technique, none skills, business equipment, cloth clothes, cloth shoes, coarse cloth pants. After looking at his stats, Zhao Fu chatted with him for a bit. Even though Xia Ming's martial arts weren't very good, he was good at business management. At the same time, he had the merchant profession and was good at business management, so he would be able to manage Zhao Fu's current and future businesses. Right now, Zhao Fu's business in the system main city was booming, but he was incredibly busy because he lacked management experience. If Zhao Fu left this matter to Xia Ming, he would be able to handle it better. The first person to spawn in Qin Village was SS grade, not S grade. It was most likely because it hadn't spawned an S grade person in a long time, and after obtaining Fate and the Heaven Prayer platform, as well as the fact that the village had leveled up, it had spawned an SS grade person. Following this, Bai Shan came to report with a delighted look on his face. He had successfully researched a skill that could examine corpses. Is this the benefit of Fate? We're so lucky. Zhao Fu was delighted as well. He followed Zhao Fu to the research lab and looked at a stone stele. Zhao Fu placed his hand on it, and a system announcement stated that he had obtained the F-grade skill, Corpse Examination. After learning this skill, Zhao Fu used it on a wild chicken next to him. Notification: skill successfully used. The grade of this corpse is F-grade. After hearing this, Zhao Fu realized that the Great Qin Village's assessment skill had been successfully developed. In the future, the Great Qin village's assessment skill would greatly change, and Zhao Fu planned to develop high-grade soldiers in preparation for the future. Thinking about Great Qin's high-grade soldiers sweeping across battlefields and being unstoppable, Zhao Fu couldn't help but lightly laugh. At that moment, Bai Shan came over with an excited look on his face. He had solved a difficult problem and was preparing to face the next one. "What do you want us to study next?" Zhao Fu thought about it and asked Bai Shan and the others to research languages. They already had goblins, gnomes, and orcs, and there would be more races joining them in the future. Because of the language barrier, there would be many obstacles, so Zhao Fu asked them to research languages to improve communication. After Bai Shan received Zhao Fu's instructions, he excused himself and went back to work. Seeing this, Zhao Fu didn't want to give them any trouble and left the research room. He suddenly remembered that Qin village had been upgraded to an advanced village, but he hadn't checked its stats yet, so he went to the village hall. Village name: Qin Village, Legendary Level, Advanced Village Area, 15 square kilometers village territory, 750 square kilometers popular support, 80 special stats, territory crop output plus 50%, territory crop growth time minus 50%, population limit plus 30%, residence stats plus 3, soldiers stats plus 3, population attraction plus 40%, high-grade attraction plus 40%. Subsidiary village limit: 24 subsidiary villages. Logue Village, Jean Village, Doran Village, Li Family Village, Wolf Village, Ferocious Tiger Village. The basic stats were the same as when it had been upgraded to an intermediate village, but the number of subsidiary villages had increased by 3 times. Zhao Fu originally had 20 villages, and after the two teams continued to explore the Forest of Horrors, they had taken down another 4 basic villages. Now, he had 24 villages. Moreover, the amount of EXP required to upgrade an advanced village to a town was quite monstrous. It required 150,000 EXP. Zhao Fu had long since become a third-ranked baron, so he had the right to upgrade a town. However, it seemed that it was still far from time to upgrade a town. Leveling up from a third-ranked baron to a second-ranked baron required 3,000 achievement points. Zhao Fu temporarily called back the 2 teams that had been exploring and reorganized them. At the same time, he expanded the team to 2,000 people and had them learn the corpse inspection skill. He also gave each of the generals in the team a spatial ring so that they could bring back a large number of corpses. Of course, he did not want corpses with normal grades, and considering that there were too few S-grade corpses, Zhao Fu gave the order to only bring back A-grade corpses. Afterwards, he transplanted more little spirit herbs. Because the population had continuously increased, the area that he had planted little spirit herbs had greatly increased, and today was the day of harvest. This time, Zhao Fu had refined 90,000 or so little spirit pills, and each of the 4,000 or so soldiers had roughly 20 pills. This was a month's supply, and from the area that they had planted little spirit herbs, they would be able to refine at least 20 little spirit pills every month. Only now did Zhao Fu truly understand the benefits of luck. Everything was going smoothly, and everything could be easily resolved. After taking care of everything in Qin Village, Zhao Fu took Xia Ming to Holy Light City and gave him legend rank authority to manage all the shop. "Your Highness, congratulations on obtaining heaven and earth luck." At that moment, Zhao Fu was going out to see what he had gained, when a voice suddenly rang out behind him. Zhao Fu turned and frowned. He looked at He Xianru, who was giving off a mysterious aura, and asked, "How did you know?" He Xianru smiled faintly. "Your Highness, don't forget that I'm proficient in yin and yang techniques, so of course I know about this." Hearing this, Zhao Fu remembered that she had seen through his luck, so he nodded and said, "In the future, don't call me Your Highness in public. Call me boss or my name." He Xianru didn't seem wary of Zhao Fu, and she smiled as she said, "Then I'll call you Zhao. In the future, if you have anything you don't understand about luck, you can ask me. I'll answer your questions at any time." Zhao Fu thought about it. He Xianru was proficient in yin and yang techniques, and he might have to ask her for help in the future. As such, he nodded, and his attitude improved. I'll trouble you with anything." Seeing that Zhao Fu's attitude was gradually improving, He Xianru was slightly delighted. She nodded softly and then went to work in the kitchen. Chapter 66. Almost all of the player factions were gathering money in preparation for this auction. Of course, Zhao Fu was also quite interested. He had a large amount of money, but it was a pity that he didn't have anywhere to spend it. There were many things that he wanted to buy, but most of the shops didn't interest Zhao Fu at all. Now that there was an auction, Zhao Fu naturally had to participate, so he started to make preparations. A day passed quite quickly, and Zhao Fu brought Bai Qi to a massive building. This was the Red Flower Merchant Alliance's auction house. The Red Flower Merchant Alliance was undoubtedly the largest merchant alliance in the Forest of Horrors, and it had countless businesses in the three main cities. It even had businesses outside of the Forest of Horrors, and it had a very deep background. Even Qin Nan warned Zhao Fu not to offend it. The auction house was completely surrounded by people, and hearing the 8 guards say that the entrance fee was 1 gold coin, countless players felt their hearts ache. 1 gold coin was equivalent to 10,000 copper coins, which was equivalent to $100,000 in the real world. This caused countless ordinary players to stop in their tracks, and they didn't even have the chance to join in on the fun. With how big the auction house was, it would be no problem for it to accommodate thousands of people. Just from this auction alone, they would be able to earn thousands of gold coins. Zhao Fu and Bai Qi paid the entrance fee of 2 gold coins, drawing the admiration of many players. Following this, they walked into the auction house. It was quite big, and it was 1,500 square meters wide. Apart from the hall on the first floor, there were private rooms on the second floor, VIP rooms on the third floor, and supreme rooms on the fourth floor. There were 24 gems that gave off a blinding white light hanging from the ceiling, so it wasn't dark inside the auction house at all. The first, second, and third floors were open to everyone, while the fourth floor was open to the truly powerful figures. Players didn't even need to think about entering. Zhao Fu didn't have any dealings with the Red Flower Merchant Alliance, so he didn't have any VIP cards. However, he could pay some gold coins to get a private room. By now, the first floor of the auction hall was packed with people. There were players and wealthy indigenous residents, and with so many people gathered together, it was quite chaotic. Everyone was chatting, and it was quite noisy. Zhao Fu had wanted to pay some gold coins to get a private room, but he had no choice. Unfortunately, the private rooms were already full. Zhao Fu could only ask for the VIP rooms, but they were full again. He didn't know how many big shots had come. Zhao Fu was speechless. He felt like he had money but nowhere to spend it. Now, he could only squeeze into the crowd. Looking at the crowd, which was like an iron wall, Zhao Fu sighed and walked forward. F***CK. What are you squeezing for, you poor bastard? As soon as Zhao Fu squeezed through, a player in front of him turned his head and said this. Zhao Fu felt quite speechless. He had a lot of coins on him, but now, he was being treated as a poor person who had come to join in on the fun. Bai Qi's expression became cold. Even though he didn't understand what that player was saying, he felt that he was cursing at Zhao Fu. Just as he was about to teach him a lesson, Zhao Fu stopped him. Zhao Fu didn't want to cause any trouble, and in the end, Zhao Fu and Bai Qi went to a remote corner. Following this, a beautiful woman in a red dress with an alluring figure walked up to the stage, and the auction officially began. The first item was a top-grade blue-grade weapon. It was a large saber that gave 3 stat points, and the starting price was 800 silver coins. Just as the beautiful woman announced the starting price, someone shouted, 900 silver coins. Just as this person called out the starting price of 900 silver coins, someone else immediately outbid him. The price of the top-grade blue-grade weapon rose higher and higher, and in the end, it was sold for 3,800 silver coins. It was even more expensive than some ordinary silver-grade weapons, and with such a high price, the atmosphere in the auction hall became even more excited. Of course, Zhao Fu wasn't interested in this item, so he didn't participate. The people on the first floor were the only ones bidding, and the second, third, and fourth floors were silent. Following this, another auction item was brought up. It was a pill bottle, and it was unknown what kind of medicinal pill was inside. At that moment, the beautiful woman twisted her body, and under the white light, her mature body was faintly discernible within her red silk dress. Her chest was revealed, and a large area of white flesh was teased, causing the crowd to howl. She saw the opportunity and opened her mouth, saying, "1 bottle of little spirit pills that can double your cultivation speed. There are 50 pills in this bottle, and the starting price is 2,500 silver coins. 3,000 silver coins." Someone yelled. Zhao Fu had already refined 90,000 or so little spirit pills, so of course he wasn't interested in them. Seeing that everyone else was bidding, there was some movement on the second floor, and in the end, the bottle of medicinal pills was sold for 6,000 silver coins. Following this, the third item was brought up. It was a blueprint. Eternal Brightness Armor Blueprint can be used to forge blue-grade armor. Price: 4,000 silver coins. The beautiful young woman explained. Zhao Fu had long since obtained a similar blueprint, and he had obtained it for free. After conquering Road Village, he had already been able to forge blue-grade armor. Everyone started to bid, and the people on the second floor were quite interested in the blueprint. At first, the people on the first floor wanted to join in the fun, but the people on the second floor started to bid, and the price had already reached 10,000 silver coins. Zhao Fu could tell that most of the people on the second floor were players, and the indigenous residents didn't care about the blueprint at all. As such, Zhao Fu decided to join in the fun. Even though he could easily buy the blueprint and restrict the development of other factions, the intensity of the bidding was simply too great. As such, there were 2 reasons why Zhao Fu didn't participate. Firstly, he didn't lack people, and secondly, if he didn't have the power to sweep away all of them, he didn't want to attract public anger. Many heroes had died to wolves in history, and those who made too many enemies didn't have a good ending. Even if one obtained an opportunity, one shouldn't think that one was the main character. There were simply too many main characters in this world. A person might be able to defeat 2 or 3 people, but could they defeat 30 or so people? Zhao Fu wasn't like the main character in some novel, who had a mocking expression and attracted hatred everywhere and would be fine in the end. However, in the real world, the grass on one's grave would be a few feet tall, and one's opponents would even dance on one's grave and laugh at one's stupidity. Of course, Zhao Fu wasn't afraid of them. It was just that it wasn't time for them to go all out. Sometimes, it wasn't necessarily a good thing to appear too powerful. At that time, although the Qin kingdom was extremely powerful, they had no choice but to take a step back in the face of the alliance of the 6 kingdoms. In the end, they put down their pride and adopted a strategy of getting close to their enemies and breaking the alliance. Since ancient times, the one who laughs at the end is not necessarily the strongest. Whoever obtained the blueprint would definitely benefit their development in the future. However, this was only a blue-grade blueprint, and there were many of them. Even if Zhao Fu stopped them this time, there would still be a next time, and there would be many other ways to obtain it. He couldn't stop others from obtaining it. Chapter 67. Apart from the 6 great families and the 3 great players, there were also 2 unknown forces participating in the bidding. In the blink of an eye, the price of the blueprint had reached 24,000 silver coins. Within a private room, there were a few people sitting around a table. Among them was Jiang Ro, and there was a young man who was a few years older than her sitting next to her. He was Jiang Feng, Jiang Ro's big brother and the successor of the Jiang family. Our Jiang family has to get this blueprint. It's all thanks to your cloth shop, otherwise I wouldn't have dared to offer such a high price, Jiang Feng said to Jiang Ro with a smile. Jiang Ro nodded lightly and did not reply. Although they were blood-related siblings, their relationship had long since become estranged. In the entire family, only her second brother was on good terms with her. Back then, when Jiang Ro had been asked to marry Zhou Jie, only his second older brother had objected. His second older brother knew what sort of person Zhou Jie was and knew that Jiang Ro would not have a good life if she married him. However, not only did this older brother not object, he even tried to persuade Jiang Ro to marry Zhou Jie. This was because Jiang Feng was the next successor of the Jiang family. If his sister married into the Zhou family and the two families worked together, it would be of great help to him in the future. He was actually quite ambitious. He didn't just want to be the son of an ordinary family, he wanted to split the land and become a king. As such, he was willing to sacrifice his sister. The other 11 forces were suppressed by the Jiang clan in the bidding, and they all looked sullen. Within a private room, the Zhou family's successor, Zhou Ming, coldly snorted and said, "This Jiang family really doesn't give our Zhou family any face." If this was in the real world, if the various powers were to compete against each other, they might have yelled at each other fiercely. However, in front of the system's powers, they were nothing. After all, if they dared to yell at the system's powers, they would be no different from clowns. Therefore, they suppressed the anger in their hearts and did not say anything. In the end, the price of the blueprint reached 32,000 silver coins. Within a private room, there were 2 people sitting on chairs with serious expressions. They gave off the aura of soldiers. They were one of the 2 mysterious factions. At this moment, a young man said to another person, "Captain, do we still need to bid?" Hearing this, the captain sighed. "This price is too high. Forget it, we can't compete with the Jiang family." The young man beside him nodded and stopped bidding. In the other room, there was a middle-aged man with a small beard and a youth playing with various wooden parts. They were one of the 2 mysterious powers. When the middle-aged man heard the price, he decided to give up. The other families also did the same, and the final blueprint was obtained by the Jiang family. Jiang Feng let out a sigh of relief, as he was not only facing the pressure from the other families, but also praying that the other person would not act. Although the Jiang family was wealthier than the other families, it was nothing compared to that person. From the beginning to the end, Jiang Feng had been bracing himself, praying that the person wasn't interested. Now that the hammer had finally fallen, Jiang Feng could finally relax. The other factions felt quite displeased that the Jiang family had won the blueprint. At the same time, they wondered why that person had not participated in the bidding. He would definitely come to such a big auction, and they did not know which VIP room he was sitting in. They had never thought that the pitiful Zhao Fu wouldn't have a VIP room, and he had been squeezed to death by the people on the first floor. The other factions thought to themselves, what was the meaning of this? With his wealth, he could easily win the blueprint and suppress them, but he did not participate in the bidding. Some people could tell that Zhao Fu was taking the initiative to express goodwill, and their hostility towards Zhao Fu slightly lessened. Following this, the 4th item was a skill book, which Zhao Fu was not interested in. Someone bought it for 6,000 silver coins. Zhao Fu was not interested in the 5th, 6th, and 7th items, so he did not participate in the bidding. The 8th item was a superior silver-grade material, and the starting price was 3,000 silver coins. Everyone started to bid, and Zhao Fu felt quite interested. Just as he was about to speak, a girl who looked around 17 years old and was quite short but quite cute called out, 8,000 silver coins. After looking at her, Zhao Fu gave up because this piece of silver-grade material wasn't worth that much silver coins. Silver-grade materials were worth 5,000 to 6,000 silver coins, and only exquisite-grade materials were worth 8,000 silver coins. Moreover, if he joined in the bidding, with how generous this young woman was, after a few rounds of bidding, the price of this material could reach 20,000 silver coins or even 30,000 silver coins. Zhao Fu looked at Zhao Fu and saw that Zhao Fu wasn't willing to spend so much silver coins. Zhao Fu was quite rational in this regard, so he immediately gave up. The silver-grade material was also bought by the girl next to him. None of the following items attracted Zhao Fu's interest, but the people in the VIP rooms started to bid, and the bidding was quite intense. The 20th item was a pair of wooden sticks that were 2 meters long. The wooden sticks were white and both ends were quite sharp. There were many runes engraved on them, and they looked quite extraordinary. The beautiful woman explained, 6 wood absolute barrier, an advanced isolation magic formation. It can prevent spatial equipment, spatial skills, and teleportation channels from being used. Hearing this, Zhao Fu was delighted. He had long since thought through the god-refining plan, and considering that the godly spirit's clone could escape, he had to prepare an isolation magic formation. Ordinary isolation magic formations were not useful to ordinary people, but they would be useful in future city battles. They could prevent the other side's teleportation channels from being used, and they cost around 20,000 silver coins. Even though it was quite cheap, Zhao Fu was not interested in such an ordinary one. The 6-wood absolute barrier caused Zhao Fu's eyes to light up. The 6-wood absolute barrier's starting price was 180,000 silver coins, which was useless to ordinary people. At the same time, even if they sold everything they had, they would not be able to afford 180,000 silver coins. Even the system factions were quite indifferent to this item. As such, this item caused the lively atmosphere in the auction hall to cool down. Seeing this, the beautiful woman inwardly sighed. This item had not been auctioned off many times already, and it had originally been sold for 300,000 silver coins. However, it had now been reduced to 180,000 silver coins. Seeing how indifferent the audience was, it was likely that the price would continue to fall in the future, or that it could only be stored in the storehouse. "Is there anyone who is interested in this item, sir?" the beautiful woman asked twice, but the audience remained silent. The beautiful woman disappointedly ordered people to carry the 6-wood absolute barrier away so that the next item could be auctioned off. 180,500 silver coins. Chapter 68. Everyone's gazes turned towards the cloaked figure in a remote corner of the first-floor hall because he was the person who had bid 180,500 silver coins. The cute young girl next to Zhao Fu also looked at Zhao Fu with curiosity. Facing these gazes, even though he was the center of attention, Zhao Fu still calmly stood there. After obtaining the Fate Legacy, his mental state had greatly changed. Hearing his voice and the cloak, many people knew who he was, and they could only sigh. He really was a rich person. At the same time, they felt quite confused. Why would a major figure like him be squeezing through the crowd on the first floor? They could only muse that ordinary people couldn't understand the world of the rich. There were also many people who didn't know who Zhao Fu was, so they curiously asked the people around them about him. When the other player factions saw that he had finally appeared, they started to feel nervous. Zhao Fu had bid 180,000 silver coins in one go. This wasn't something that a player faction could compare to. When Jiang Ro heard Zhao Fu's voice, she happily smiled and left the private room. Jiang Feng didn't stop her, and he instead smiled in support. After all, Zhao Fu was definitely more powerful than the Zhou family. When the beautiful woman on the stage heard that someone had finally bid, she couldn't help but flirtatiously smile as she said, This sir has bid 180,500 silver coins. Is there anyone else who wishes to bid? If not, this 6-wood absolute barrier will belong to this sir. Right now, no one was bidding. Who could afford 180,000 silver coins? Moreover, the system factions weren't interested, so in the end, Zhao Fu obtained the 6-wood absolute barrier. Zhao Xan. Jiang Ro walked to the first floor and smiled as she called out. Hearing this, Zhao Fu turned and saw Jiang Ro nod. Jiang Ro then came to Zhao Fu's side and started to chat with Zhao Fu. Within another private room, Zhou Ming's gaze became cold. The Jiang and Zhou families hadn't officially agreed to Jiang Ro and Jiang Ro's marriage, but they had long since come to an agreement. Seeing Jiang Ro so affectionately next to someone else, wasn't this a slap to the Zhou family's face? Thinking back to how Jiang Feng had shamelessly bid for the blueprint, Zhou Ming knew what the Jiang family meant. Although he was furious, Zhou Ming endured it because he knew the current situation. His side was already at a disadvantage. If the two families fought, with a pack of hungry wolves watching from the sidelines, the situation would be very disadvantageous. Following this, another item was brought up. It was a medicinal bottle. The beautiful woman introduced it, saying, "A spirit explosion pill. A stage 3 medicinal pill that will explode with all of one's power. The side effect will cause one to be in a weakened state for a few days. This bottle contains 20 spirit explosion pills, and the starting price is 80,000 silver coins." Hearing this, many people became interested. After all, this medicinal pill was quite good as a life-saving trump card. However, it wasn't something that ordinary players could afford. Only a few system factions were bidding for it, but in the end it was Zhao Fu who bought it for 120,000 silver coins. Zhao Fu's expression didn't change as he spent 300,000 silver coins. Seeing how relaxed Zhao Fu was, the surrounding players were all shocked. Following this, another item was brought up. It was an A-grade skill book, Holy Ring Light. It could summon angel 7-fold halos to attack, and the starting price was 200,000 silver coins. This skill book attracted everyone's attention. From an A-grade skill book, it wasn't something that ordinary people could come into contact with. Moreover, it was said that it could summon angel 7-fold halos to attack, and just from hearing about it, everyone could tell that this skill was incredibly powerful. Most of the people bidding were in the VIP rooms, and the people in the private rooms and on the first floor didn't have the ability to participate. They could only excitedly watch as the adults bid. The price of the Holy Ring of Light rose higher and higher until it reached 320,000 silver coins. At this price, there were fewer and fewer people bidding, but there were still 5 people intensely bidding. The price had already reached 400,000 silver coins. Everyone present couldn't help but gulp nervously when they heard the price. Zhao Xian, who do you think will buy this skill? Jiang Ro curiously looked at the intense bidding, and could not help but ask Zhao Fu. Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and called out, 450,000 silver coins. Jiang Ro stared blankly for a moment before realizing that Zhao Fu had also participated in the bidding. He had even increased the bid by 50,000 silver coins. Hearing Zhao Fu's shout, the gazes of the countless people on the first floor once again shifted to Zhao Fu. They couldn't help but think to themselves, isn't he a little too rich? He's already spent 300,000 silver coins, and now he's going to spend 45 silver coins. He's truly a godly tycoon. It was likely that the player forces here were all very powerful. That's not even as much as the money he has. The large families and factions in the private rooms looked at Zhao Fu and felt a sense of helplessness. Jiang Feng's smile became even wider. Jiang Feng's smile became even brighter. He had already given up on the Zhou family and placed all of his bets on Zhao Fu. Now, he only hoped that Jiang Ro would be able to win Zhao Fu's heart. Zhou Ming's expression was quite unsightly. His hedonistic little brother had already offended Zhao Fu, and if he made a move in the future, he would definitely look for the Zhou family first. Right now, Zhao Fu gave Zhou Ming a deep sense of danger. Within another private room, a young man said, "Captain, this person called Zhao Xian has a lot of money. I heard that he might be a legatee of a kingdom, but I don't know which legatee he is. There are many kingdoms in China's history, and it's fine if he's a famous kingdom, but if he's a small, unknown kingdom, as long as he doesn't announce it, it'll be very difficult to find out." The captain nodded and looked at Zhao Fu as he said, "He's very useful to the kingdom, so we must have him join us and serve the kingdom." When the young man heard this, his expression turned serious, and he stood at attention with a sense of mission. He saluted and said, "Yes, sir." In another room, the middle-aged man pointed at Zhao Fu through the window and said to the young man on the table beside him, "Hunter, look at him." "Uncle Lin." The young man responded and walked to the window. He opened his eyes slightly, and an invisible force spread out from his eyes. In an instant, the young man's eyes turned pure black, and there seemed to be countless gears spinning in his eyes. "Uncle Lin, I can't see anything." The young man's black eyes looked at Zhao Fu a few times. All he could see was darkness. He couldn't see anything, so he said to the middle-aged man beside him, "Really?" The one called Uncle Lin pondered for a while before saying, "Hun, even your inky eyes of heavenly works couldn't see through it, so there must have been an expert interfering. This matter isn't as simple as it seems, so I'll report it to my superiors later." The young man nodded and returned to the table to play with the wooden parts. Then, things returned to Zhao Fu's bid of 450,000 silver coins. This high price caused everyone present to fall silent, and the people in the VIP rooms hesitated, not saying anything for a long time. Chapter 69. After the beautiful woman's reminder, the people in the VIP rooms hesitated and decided not to bid. In the end, the A-grade Holy Rings light was obtained by Zhao Fu. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu with envy and jealousy before turning their attention to the next item. Zhao Fu did not bid for the next item, and the items were auctioned off one by one. The system factions displayed their true strength, and all of the items that moved countless players were won at high prices. Just like that, 20 or so items were auctioned off, and Zhao Fu did not bid at all. Instead, he stood in a corner, and everyone's gazes fell on the system factions. Following this, the auction came to an end, and the final items were slowly brought out. The first item was a fist-sized rock that gave off a faint yellow light. It seemed to be made of iron, and even though it was only as big as a fist, it required 4 big men to carry it up. The beautiful woman on the stage introduced hard earth rock, a gold-grade material that can be used to forge gold-grade equipment. Bidding price, 300,000 silver coins. Finally, a gold-grade item had appeared. Everyone excitedly stared at the hard earth rock and discussed it, and the scene was quite lively. The first person to bid 320,000 silver coins was immediately surpassed by a few others, and the hard earth rock's price reached 400,000 silver coins. A few people were still bidding intensely. Suddenly, a middle-aged man's voice calmly sounded out from one of the sovereign rooms. 500,000 silver coins. After this voice sounded out, everyone fell silent. This was the first time that someone from the sovereign room had bid, and everyone knew that this person's status was incredibly high. As such, the people who had been bidding all fell silent. The cute girl next to Zhao Fu stared at the hard earth rock on the stage, her eyes shining. It was a pity that she didn't have much money left, so she could only lower her head and sigh. Zhao Fu was very tempted as he looked at the gold-grade ore. Although he couldn't forge a piece of gold equipment right now, he could save it for later. However, even though Zhao Fu wanted to buy it, he had to consider the status of the person in the sovereign room. With his status and power, Zhao Fu naturally could not afford to offend him, nor did he want to offend him for a gold-grade material. After all, he had many businesses in Holy Light City, and if he offended such a major figure, he could directly shut down his business and ban him from teleporting into Holy Light City. Many people knew this, so the scene quieted down. No one dared to bid. The originally lively auction house suddenly became so quiet that the atmosphere even became a little awkward. Old Wu, with your status, do you really think you lack a gold-grade ore? Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out from another sovereign's room. When he heard this, the middle-aged man called Old Wu gave a hearty laugh and said, "I've been sitting here for too long and wanted to have some fun. Don't worry about my identity. Don't worry, I won't take revenge on you after this." When everyone heard his words, they were speechless. Even though Old Wu had said that they didn't need to worry about his status, his subsequent words made it seem as if he would definitely take revenge on him after this. Who dared to bid? As such, the auction house remained completely silent, and no one dared to bid. The beautiful woman on the stage awkwardly asked, "Is there anyone else who wants to bid?" Seeing this, Zhao Fu sighed and decided to give up on this gold-grade ore. It wasn't worth it to ruin his business for this ore. Seeing Zhao Fu's expression, the cute girl tilted her head and thought to herself. She suddenly thought of something and leapt towards Zhao Fu. 550,000 silver coins. A sweet voice rang out in the quiet auction hall. Instantly, everyone gasped. Who would dare to offend such a grand figure? Everyone's gazes once again fell on a familiar corner, and they saw a cute girl tightly hugging a cloaked figure like an octopus. At that moment the cute girl said, "I'm his friend, he's paying for me." Fudge! Zhao Fu couldn't help but curse inwardly. However, with so many gazes on him and the girl's words, he immediately realized that he had been conned by this girl. He hurriedly tried to push her away. He didn't know her, but this girl was sticking to Zhao Fu like candy, and no matter how hard Zhao Fu tried, he couldn't push her away. "Very well. This hard earth stone will be won by this, sir," the beautiful woman on the stage said. The beautiful young woman on the stage was also very tactful. She was already very satisfied with the price. At the same time, she knew Old Wu's identity, and with his status, a gold-grade material wasn't much at all. He was just bidding for fun, and even though it was just for fun, the side effects of such a grand figure's words were quite great. For example, the auction house from before had fallen silent, and now that someone had made a bid, she was quite satisfied with an additional 50,000 silver coins. Seeing this, Zhao Fu was about to say, "Wait." However, before he could say anything, a soft hand covered his mouth, and the next item was brought up. The outcome was already decided, and many factions looked at Zhao Fu with schadenfreude. The girl let go of Zhao Fu and giggled to the side. She seemed to be thinking about something, and she even started to drool. Zhao Fu sighed and turned to look at the girl beside him as he asked, "Who are you?" The cute girl came back to her senses and smiled at Zhao Fu as she said, "I'm called Gongsun Bao Bao. There's no need to be so polite, you can just call me Bao Bao." Zhao Fu was speechless. This girl still didn't understand the situation, and he reminded her, "Do you know that you screwed me over just now?" Gongsun Bao Bao laughed and didn't seem to mind as she said, "I think that uncle was just playing around. It's fine. Plus, I don't want your hard earth stone, and I'm going to help you forge gold-grade equipment. You've made a profit, but there's no need to thank me. I'm such a good person." Hearing this, Zhao Fu didn't know what to say. Anyone would believe that she could forge gold-grade equipment, and none of Zhao Fu's subordinates could forge gold-grade equipment, so how could a player do it? Seeing that Zhao Fu didn't believe her, Gongsun Bao Bao angrily pouted and said, "Don't look down on this lady's ability. Our family is the Gongsun family that forged the Scarlet Firmament Sword." Scarlet Firmament Sword? Zhao Fu felt that it was quite familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. At that moment, Jiang Ro smiled and explained, "The Scarlet Firmament Sword is one of the 10 great swords of ancient times, and it's ranked 3rd. It's below the Xianyuan sword and the clear sable sword. It's said that Emperor Gaozu Liu Bang obtained it and used it to slay a white dragon and walk the path of an emperor. As such, this sword is also an emperor's sword, and it was forged by the Gongsun family. Chapter 70. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and introduced himself, saying, "I'm called Zhao Xian." Hearing his words, Gongsun Lin cutely smiled and nodded, indicating that she remembered his name. Following this, everyone's gazes turned to the next auction item. The next item was a spear that was silver in color. There were intricate carvings on the spear's body, and its sharp tip gave off a cold light, causing people to feel a chill in their hearts and not dare to approach it. This was undoubtedly a gold-grade weapon. At this moment, the beautiful woman on the stage started to introduce the 100-flower silver spear, a gold-grade weapon forged from high-quality mithril. Bidding price: 800,000 silver coins. Because this spear's stats were public, Zhao Fu looked at it and found that it was slightly inferior to Bai Qi's star-slashing sword. This was because the star-slashing sword had already been strengthened once. If it hadn't been strengthened, the star-slashing sword's stats wouldn't have been as good as this spear's. After all, it had been eroded by time. Following this, the truly powerful figures started to bid. Everyone else could only watch, and this was the same for Zhao Fu. After buying that hard earth stone, he had spent all of the money he had prepared. In the end, the 100-flower silver spear was sold for 1 million silver coins. This was an astronomical price, and the crowd couldn't help but sigh in amazement. Following this, the second item was brought out. Zhao Fu recognized them. They were 8 irregularly shaped stones that gave off fire attribute energy. They were fire-strengthening stones. The beautiful woman once again introduced, saying, "Everyone knows that strengthening stones aren't easy to obtain, and these 8 fire-strengthening stones were something that our Red Flower Merchant Alliance went to great lengths to gather. They are incredibly rare and can help equipment go through the 4th strengthening process. Bidding price: 2 million silver coins." 4th strengthening? After hearing her introduction, Zhao Fu realized that equipment could be strengthened many times, but the number of strengthening stones required for each strengthening was different. With how rare strengthening stones were, it was incredibly difficult to gather 8 strengthening stones of the same attribute. No wonder the starting price was higher than that of a gold-grade equipment. In the end, the people in the sovereign rooms fiercely bid, and the 8 fire-strengthening stones were sold for 8 million silver coins. This number was already enough to make countless people look up to it. They didn't even dare to think that there would be so many coins. However, seeing these big shots compete, everyone was quite excited. The final item was carefully carried up by the 6 big men. It was a massive egg that was 1 meter long. The eggshell was slightly azure, and it gave off a faint light. This made it clear that this was no ordinary egg, and it was definitely an egg laid by an extremely powerful creature. The beautiful young woman on the stage faintly smiled and said mysteriously, "Does everyone know about dragons? That kind of powerful and terrifying creature, even a single one of them could create a disaster. They were synonymous with nightmares. Perhaps someone had already thought of it. That's right. In front of everyone is a wind dragon egg. Do you want to own an incomparably powerful dragon? Do you want to ride it and soar? Do you want to be above nightmares? Everyone, please start bidding. The wind dragon egg's starting price is 8 million silver coins." After the beautiful young woman finished her introduction, countless people fell into shock. They had never thought that the egg in front of them would be a dragon egg. Zhao Fu also looked quite shocked. After all, even ordinary dragons with impure bloodlines were stage 4 creatures. Some purebred wyverns were stage 5 creatures, and stone dragons, earth dragons, and poison dragons were stage 6 creatures. Some pure elemental dragons, such as wind dragons, fire dragons, and ice dragons, were stage 7 creatures. There were also light dragons, darkness dragons, fairy dragons, and crystal dragons, which were stage 8 creatures. Finally, there were chaos dragons, which were terrifying stage 9 creatures. These were all Western dragons, and Chinese dragons were at least stage 8. However, there weren't as many of them as Western dragons. No matter which faction it was, they were all quite weak. Let alone stage 9 creatures, even an earth dragon would cause a massive disaster. No one had expected that the Red Flower Merchant Alliance would be able to obtain a wind dragon egg. No one knew how they had obtained it, but being able to obtain a wind dragon egg was already a miracle. When he saw this dragon egg, Zhao Fu felt incredibly tempted. It was a pity that he didn't have that much money, and even if he did, he wouldn't be able to keep this wind dragon egg. However, dragons had very long lifespans, and this dragon egg would take at least 2 or 3 years to hatch. Who knew how many years it would take to nurture it? 10 million silver coins. As Zhao Fu thought to himself, the sovereign rooms started to bid, raising the price to 10 million silver coins. However, the price was immediately surpassed by someone else. Gradually, the price of the wind dragon egg reached a level that could cause ordinary people to despair. 42 million silver coins. A hoarse voice sounded out from one of the sovereign rooms. Everyone, please give Demon Tree City some face and let us have this wind dragon egg. Now that the wind dragon egg had reached such an astronomical price, these major figures couldn't help but become more cautious. They even lowered their pride and spoke to the people from the other 2 main cities. A deep voice sounded out from another sovereign room. Apologies. 45 million silver coins. This wind dragon egg was incredibly important to any of the system main cities, so how could they let it go? As such, Soldier Forest's people didn't hesitate to bid as well. On Holy Light City's side, the person called Old Wu heartily laughed and said, "Apologies then, 50 million silver coins." Seeing this, even though Demon Tree City's people were quite angry that they didn't give the other 2 main cities any face, they understood how important this wind dragon egg was. As such, they sighed and called out, 5,200 silver coins. Following this, the 3 factions fiercely fought over the wind dragon egg, leaving everyone else in a state of shock. The auction hall was quite silent, and only the voices of the 3 factions could be heard. In the end, because this was Holy Light City's main auction hall, they had a great advantage, and they were able to obtain the wind dragon egg for 72 million silver coins. Following this, the auction concluded, and countless people excitedly left. Even though some people hadn't bought anything, after seeing so many precious items and the intense competition between the factions, they were quite satisfied. When they went back, they could even brag about seeing a wind dragon egg with their own eyes. Zhao Fu and Gongsun Lin went backstage, paid the money, and received their items. After returning to the Westfall restaurant, Gongsun Lin lay on the table and looked at the hard earth stone on the table. At the same time, she giggled like a child who had received a gift that she wanted. After a while, Zhao Fu couldn't help but say, "You can forge gold-grade equipment now, right?" Chapter 71. Gongsun Lin came back to her senses and said, "Then help me get a smithy. However, my forging time is quite slow, so you need to be prepared." Zhao Fu nodded. He understood that it was not easy for a player to forge gold-grade equipment, so he prepared to help her find a smithy. "I forgot. What equipment do you want to forge?" "This hard earth rock is suitable for heavy weapons or shields," Gongsun Lin said to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu paused and thought about it. Heavy weapons and shields? None of his subordinates could use heavy weapons, so he decided to make a shield. The god-refining plan might have to fight with the godly spirit's doppelganger, and a gold-grade shield would be much safer. After making up his mind, Zhao Fu told Gongsun Lin to forge a shield, and went out to get her a smithy. He also bought some supplementary materials for forging gold-grade equipment. That was the end of forging gold-grade equipment. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the Qin village and gave the A-grade holy rings light to Daisy. She was an elven priest and had very high intelligence, but Zhao Fu wasn't sure if she could use holy light skills. Zhao Fu and Old Logue were demon priests, so they definitely couldn't use holy light skills. Daisy had the highest intelligence, so Zhao Fu decided to give it to her. Zhao Fu called Daisy to the side and looked at this mature elf. He handed the holy ring's light to her to see if she could use it. Seeing the holy ring's light fuse into her body, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that she could use it. Seeing that she had successfully used it, Zhao Fu wanted to see just how powerful this skill was. Lu Mei, Wang Ergu, and the others were also quite curious. They went to a cliff made of granite and had Daisy use the holy ring's light. By now, Daisy was standing 10 or so meters away from the cliff. She lightly breathed out and closed her eyes. A-grade magic skills were not as easy as casting fireballs, and they were much more difficult. Daisy lightly closed her eyes and stood there, her body giving off a faint white light. Her aura had completely changed, and she looked somewhat holy and pure. Following this, she slowly raised her hand and pointed at the mountain wall. A wisp of white light shot out from her index finger. It was very fast and silent. Like a white line, it reached the mountain wall in an instant. However, at this moment, something strange happened. The wisp of white light split into 2, then into 3, then into 4, and finally into 7 different-sized halos, one wrapped around the other, and crashed into the hard mountain wall. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the mountain cracked and dust flew into the air. 7 circles of different sizes appeared on the mountain wall. The largest circle on the outside was 10 meters wide, while the one on the inside was 1 meter wide. These 7 circles all went more than 1 meter deep into the mountain wall. It could be seen that in front of this kind of power, ordinary equipment was like trash. In actuality, Daisy had not been able to use the Holy Ring's light's power because her cultivation was only at stage 0 to 5. Moreover, it was her first time using it, so she had not fully grasped the skill yet. When her cultivation was higher and she fully grasped the skill, its destructive power would be hundreds of times greater. However, Zhao Fu was quite satisfied with the power of the Holy Ring's light. If his hell fireballs landed on the hard mountain wall, they would only be able to blast open a 1-meter-wide crater. After returning to Qin village, Zhao Fu took care of some internal affairs. By now, the 2 exploration teams had already explored the surrounding 70 kilometers around Qin village. They had conquered 2 basic villages and 1 intermediate village. Now Zhao Fu had 27 villages in his hand. At that moment, a soldier came to report that they had discovered a bandit stronghold 74 kilometers east of Qin village. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded. Over the past few days, he had been dealing with business matters. Now that he had discovered an advanced village, Zhao Fu wanted to personally lead people to attack it. By now, the area of 70 kilometers around Qin village was already within his control. The bronze concentrate mine was 50 kilometers away from Qin village, so it was not too dangerous. Zhao Fu summoned back 1,000 soldiers and took 3,000 soldiers to the bandit stronghold. A day later, on a bright and sunny morning, Zhao Fu brought a group of people to the bandit stronghold. From a high vantage point, Zhao Fu could see that there were around 5,000 people in the stronghold. The terrain was quite complex, and there was only one entrance, which was the entrance to the stronghold. The walls at the entrance were made of stone, and there were 2 doors made of solid wood. There were a few people patrolling above and below, and the defenses were quite tight. Adding on the terrain, it was easy to defend and difficult to attack. However, Zhao Fu noticed that there was a strange stone platform within the stronghold that was 8 meters tall. A stronghold definitely wouldn't be so bored as to build such a stone platform, so Zhao Fu was quite interested. Now it was time to discuss tactics. With the defenses of the stronghold and the only entrance, It would be impossible for Zhao Fu's people to sneak in, so poisoning the stronghold wouldn't work. Moreover, they didn't know that the bandit stronghold had plundered a large amount of food, so not many people would go out to hunt. Only a few small teams would come out to get some meat, so they wouldn't be able to take them out one by one. It seemed that Zhao Fu had to think of a way to lure out most of the bandits. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to use all of his 350 goblins to pretend to attack the stronghold. Of course, they wouldn't actually attack, in fact, they wouldn't even get close. After all, advanced villages already had shield bearers and archers, and if hundreds of goblins attacked, they would definitely suffer heavy casualties. However, just as Zhao Fu was about to carry out his plan, a soldier came to report that they had captured a few suspicious people. Hearing this, Zhao Fu temporarily stopped his plan and decided to see who they had captured. Following this, a few shabbily clothed youths were brought in. Zhao Fu looked at them and asked, "Who are you?" Some of the youths looked quite scared and panicked, but there was one person who didn't seem panicked at all. He looked at Zhao Fu and asked, "Sir, are you planning to attack the bandit stronghold?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded. Seeing Zhao Fu nod, the others looked quite delighted. At that moment, the young man respectfully bowed to Zhao Fu and did his best to control his attitude. His eyes were filled with hatred as he said, "I am Xiao Jian, the son of the 100-Flower Village's village chief. Our village was originally an intermediate village, and it wasn't too far away from here. However, 3 days ago, we were attacked by these despicable bandits, and a large number of our villagers were slaughtered. The women were either raped and killed, or taken to the stronghold to be used as sex toys. Sir, please take revenge for us." After saying this, the young man and the others knelt on the ground and vigorously kowtowed, begging Zhao Fu for mercy. Hearing the young man's words, Daisy and Lu Mei looked furious, and even Bai Qi's expression became cold. Chapter 72. A plan appeared in Zhao Fu's mind, and he didn't immediately agree to help Xiao Jian and the others get revenge. Instead, he asked, "Were you the only ones who escaped?" "No, sir, 30 or so of us escaped." Hearing that Zhao Fu didn't immediately agree, Xiao Jian's heart sank, but he still respectfully replied. "How many adult men were there?" Zhao Fu asked. "A total of 21 adult men," Xiao Jian hurriedly replied. After hearing Xiao Jian's words, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before replying, "I can help you get revenge, but this will depend on you. Bring the remaining adult men to me." "Thank you, sir." Hearing that Zhao Fu had agreed, Xiao Jian felt quite delighted, and he once again knelt on the ground and kowtowed before leaving. A while later, Xiao Jian returned with 21 malnourished and emaciated men. Seeing that their village had been breached, it was evident that they hadn't had a good time these past few days. In the Heaven Awakened world, people spawned from the origin, but now that the village was gone, the villagers were refugees and couldn't spawn from the origin. They could only rely on themselves to find the next village. "Do you want revenge?" Zhao Fu asked as his gaze fell on them. Even though they were malnourished and emaciated, they couldn't hide their hatred, and they replied in unison, "Yes." Seeing this, Zhao Fu nodded and said, "Give each of them an iron sword." The soldiers obeyed and handed out iron swords to Xiao Jian and the others. Xiao Jian and the others understood what this meant. They were definitely going to attack the stronghold with this sword to take revenge. However, what happened next shocked them. They saw that the well-equipped soldiers, who were originally wearing armor, actually took off all their equipment and rolled on the ground a few times. The originally valiant and extraordinary soldiers all turned into refugees. Then, they picked up all kinds of wooden sticks, as if they were weapons, and picked up a few wooden boards, as if they were shield. "Zhang Dahu, you'll lead the troops this time. Follow the plan," Zhao Fu said. Zhang Dahu nodded and looked at the confused expressions on Xiao Jian and the others' faces as he laughed and said, "Let's go." Xiao Jian could not understand why they had not brought their equipment and ended up like this. What's more, they only had 700 people, while there were 5,000 bandits on the other side. Moreover, it was easy to defend and difficult to attack. How could they defeat them with just their numbers? Are we going to attack the stronghold like this? Hearing Xiao Jian's words, Zhang Dahu smiled and was about to explain his plan when Zhao Fu stopped him. Zhao Fu gave a faint smile as he turned to Xiao Jian and said, "Since you want to take revenge, bring out your courage and fury. Isn't staining your hands with the blood of your enemies the most satisfying thing?" Hearing this, Xiao Jian thought about the tragic experiences that the hundreds of Flowers village had gone through, and his heart was filled with rage. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhao Fu, saying, "If we die, please take care of the remaining elderly and women. We will repay your kindness in our next life." After speaking, Xiao Jian loudly yelled and led the remaining 20 or so people from the 100-flower village towards the stronghold. Zhang Dahu also led 700 or so soldiers. On the other side, within the stronghold. "Not good, not good, there are enemies attacking our stronghold." A sudden shout startled everyone. 3 burly men walked out of the stronghold's hall. They were the 3 leaders of the stronghold, and when they heard the news, they brought a large number of bandits to the entrance of the stronghold. At that moment they saw that there were less than 800 people, and they were holding lousy clubs, yet they actually wanted to attack their stronghold. They coldly laughed in disdain. "Wang Xiong, Wang Long, Wang Bao, I want you to pay with your lives for the lives of the 800 villagers of the 100-flower village." Xiao Jian charged at the very front and glared at the 3 big men on the stronghold's walls as he roared hatefully. The 3 big men looked at Xiao Jian, and one of them said, "So it's that brat from the 100-flower village. We let him escape last time, but who would have thought that he would bring so many refugees from somewhere and want to attack our stronghold?" On the other hand, his big sister asked him to serve our big brother, but he refused and even committed suicide in the end. What a pity for that good body of his. Third brother is right, but capturing quite a few women from the 100-flower village isn't bad either. The other burly man also laughed and said. Only Big Brother Ming had a calm expression as he looked at Xiao Jian's group charging over and ordered, "Fire!" Arrows flew out, but most of them were blocked by the simple wooden shields that they had prepared beforehand. Only a few people were occasionally injured, but a portion of the refugees that Xiao Jian had brought ran away in fear. The remaining 500 or so people continued to charge, and another wave of arrows rained down. A few more people were injured, but some more ran away. After the third wave of arrows rained down, the last 200 or so people also ran away. Seeing this, the third brother on the stronghold's wall said mockingly, "What a motley crew! They only charged a few times before running away." The second brother also said, "That's right. I wonder what tricks that brat from the 100-flower village used to gather so many people. Now that they've seen how powerful our stronghold is, they're so scared that they can only run away." "Ah!" The third brother loudly laughed and said, "Big brother, we definitely can't let that brat off this time. This time we can't let this brat go. I'll lead 3,000 brothers to hunt them down." The big brother thought for a moment and nodded. However, he felt that something was wrong, but then he thought about it again. Their stronghold had indeed offended many people, and it was not uncommon for enemies to come looking for them. In order to be cautious, the big brother turned his head and said, "Third brother, take 4,000 people out. Be careful." Upon hearing this, the third brother smiled. "Thank you for your concern, big brother." He then opened the gates to the stronghold, and 4,000 bandits streamed out in a single file, chasing after Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian and the others followed the plan and quickly ran to the side. Before, Xiao Jian had thought that Zhao Fu was sending them to their death. Only after hearing Zhang Dahu's explanation did he understand. On the way, Xiao Jian asked Zhang Dahu, "Sir, What kind of person is he? Zhang Dahe thought about it and did not know how to explain it, so he said, I don't know what to say, but His Majesty treats us very well, and he's a very powerful person. He always has all sorts of tactics to deal with his enemies. His Majesty is a very charismatic person, and he has the ability to make people believe that he can create a peaceful place in this chaotic world. His Majesty? Xiao Jian understood that this young man, who looked even younger than him, had an extraordinary background. Zhang Dahu did not mind that he had let this slip. After all, Xiao Jian and the others had no one to rely on, and His Majesty would definitely take them in. As such, he had long since treated Xiao Jian as one of his own. Chapter 73. The third brother looked at the escaping Xiao Jian and smiled like a hunter eyeing his prey. Just as he was about to order the archers to fire, swish, 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 the sound of the air being torn could be heard as ballistae bolts tore through the air with immense force. Zhao Fu had brought 200 ballistae this time, and because he had the spatial ring, he did not have to worry about transporting them, so Zhao Fu had brought all of them. 200 ballistae and 600 ballistae bolts that were as thick as a middle finger rained down on the 4,000 bandit. Chi, 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 the crossbow bolts fell one by one, piercing through the bodies of the bandits from top to bottom. The arrowheads sank into the ground, and scarlet blood slowly flowed down the body of the arrows. In just a moment, nearly 600 bandits were nailed to the ground. The scene instantly became incomparably bloody. Having suddenly suffered such a terrifying attack, the group of bandits immediately fell into a panic. Swish, 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 this time, countless ballistae bolts shot out from all directions. Zhang Dahu and the others, who had been pretending to run, didn't even put on any defensive equipment. Instead, they picked up their bows and started to fire wildly. In an instant, countless bandits were killed or injured, and blood dyed the ground red. At that moment, the bandits finally reacted, and the third brother yelled, "Raise your shields!" The bandits obeyed and raised their ironwood shields, forming a massive circular shield wall that blocked the incoming ballistae. Xiao Jian looked at the bandits that had suffered heavy casualties and felt incredibly pleased. He was finally going to take revenge. At that moment, the third brother noticed Xiao Jian and realized what was going on. A savage expression appeared on his face as he said, "Brat, I never thought that you would dare to ambush me. I never thought that you would dare to ambush me. I'm going to cut you into 1,000 pieces. Ha ha! You villains deserve it. It's time for you to receive your retribution." Xiao Jian roared as he wildly laughed. Seeing this, the third brother was infuriated, and after thinking about it, he also started to loudly laugh. "You probably don't know, but I killed that bitch long ago. I even had a taste of your sister, and she was quite good." Suddenly, hearing his third brother's words, Xiao Jian thought about how his elder sister, who had doted on him the most, had been killed by this person. Scenes of his elder sister flashed through his mind, and Xiao Jian's expression turned sluggish. He weakly knelt on the ground, and tears continuously flowed from his eyes. He felt like a knife was stabbing into his heart. Seeing this, Zhao Fu frowned and ordered, "Spear throwers, prepare to fire the ballistae. Destroy the shield wall." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Under Zhao Fu's orders, heavy sounds of the air being torn could be heard as ballista bolts containing immense force shot towards the shield wall formed by the bandits. Bang, 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 the crossbow bolts struck the shields, and the arrowheads directly pierced into the shields. The immense force made the bandits feel as if they had been rammed by a bull. The shields in their hands were sent flying, and their bodies were also sent flying. The shield wall formed by the bandits was instantly destroyed by the ballistae. Following this, the javelin throwers hurled their javelins, destroying the shield wall and dealing a lot of damage to the bandit. After the shield wall was destroyed, countless ballista bolts covered the bandits. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Bandits fell to the ground and were shot to death. The third brother was also hit by 2 arrows, but none of his vitals had been hit. Looking at the bandits dying in front of him, the third brother felt incredibly furious. He thought to himself, "I'm definitely going to catch Xiao Jian next time and torture him to death. I wonder where he found such a powerful team, so I can only run today. I'll kill you." Xiao Jian's eyes were bloodshot, and his face was completely twisted. He roared at the third brother as if he had gone mad, and he gripped his iron sword and rushed over. Zhang Dahu wanted to pull him back, but Xiao Jian forcefully broke free, and Zhang Dahu could only sigh. On the other side, when he saw that there were less than 1,500 bandits dead, Zhao Fu stopped shooting. Seeing that Zhao Fu had stopped, the third brother relaxed and prepared to break out of the encirclement. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Suddenly, the sound of countless horse hooves could be heard, and the third brother looked behind him in terror. He saw 10 terrifying skeleton cavalrymen leading 300 cavalrymen wearing azure armor and holding azure spears as they charged over. They gave off a terrifying aura, and they looked like ferocious beasts as they charged over. The third brother felt a trace of fear and completely ignored Xiao Jian. Chi, chi, chi. The cavalrymen were incredibly fast, and they were like incredibly fast azure spears as they stabbed into the bandit. They used their spears to pierce through the enemies in front of them, making them unable to retaliate at all. All of the bandits retreated to the side in terror. Cavalrymen were a very powerful type of soldier in ancient times, and if one wanted to counter them, they would have to prepare cavalrymen or heavy shield-bearers. Only then would they be able to stop the unstoppable charge of the cavalrymen. The 300 cavalrymen charged through the bandits like a chopstick stabbing through tofu, but they had caused at least 500 casualties. The bandits' morale plummeted, and they were in complete chaos. They just wanted to escape from this terrifying place. By now, Xiao Jian and the 20 or so villagers from the 100 Flower Village had charged into the bandits and started to fight. "Wang Bao, I'm going to kill you!" Xiao Jian's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Wang Bao, the third brother, and he rushed over. Wang Bao's expression became savage, and since he couldn't escape, he might as well kill this brat to vent his anger. As such, he drew his large saber and rushed over. Zhao Fu rode on the tall and mighty Little Black, and coldly watched everything unfold before him. Little Gray was next to Little Black, its massive head looking down at the battle that was going on. Have the cavalrymen continue to charge and use arrows to kill some of the bandits on the outskirts. Split off a small part of the battlefield for them and give them the revenge they want. As for whether they live or die, it's up to them. By the side, Bai Qi nodded and immediately gave out a series of detailed orders. 2 hours later, the battle concluded. It was currently afternoon, and the sky was incredibly blue. There weren't many clouds, and the bright red setting sun shone on the corpses on the ground, creating a beautiful scene of death. Zhao Fu rode on Little Black and stepped over the corpses on the ground. He came to a corpse that he didn't know was alive or dead. This corpse was covered with wounds, and there were deep scars on its face. His entire body was soaked in blood, and he looked like a bloody person as he lay in a pool of blood, his eyes empty as he stared at the sky. Only when Zhao Fu came over on Little Black did he weakly call out, "Your Majesty." Zhao Fu lightly nodded and looked at Xiao Jian lying in a pool of blood as he asked, "Do you feel better now?" Hearing this, Xiao Jian nodded with great difficulty before shaking his head and saying bitterly, "Even though I've gotten my revenge, I can't get back what I lost. Right now, there's only an emptiness in my heart. The world is so big, and you'll once again find something to fill the emptiness in your heart. However, do you have the ability to protect it? Right now, you don't have the ability to do so, so you need to become more powerful in order to protect the most important people in your life," Zhao Fu said softly to Xiao Jian. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Xiao Jian, who was lying in a pool of blood, looked towards the west. The golden setting sun was like a suit of armor covering Zhao Fu's body, and his figure seemed incredibly tall and holy, making him seem incredibly trustworthy. Chapter 74. Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly laughed. In actuality, I don't have much confidence in unifying the world, but I'll definitely ensure that my subjects have a safe place to live. Xiao Jian laughed and coughed up another mouthful of blood as he nodded. At that moment, Zhao Fu came down from Little Black's back and helped Xiao Jian up, who was lying in a pool of blood. He fed him a special healing pill before having the soldiers carry him away and treat his injuries. In actuality, Zhao Fu had never thought that Xiao Jian would be able to defeat Wang Bao. In terms of strength, Xiao Jian couldn't defeat Wang Bao at all, but Zhao Fu's method of exchanging injuries was incredibly ferocious. Back then, Wang Bao had felt a trace of fear, which was why he had lost. However, Xiao Jian was also heavily injured. This battle could be said to be a complete victory for Zhao Fu. He had killed 3,700 enemies and captured 300 captive. Apart from a few people who had pretended to attack the stronghold and been injured, the rest were mostly unharmed. On the 100 Flower Village's side, 4 people had died, and the rest had been injured. Moreover, the reason why this battle had been so successful was because of Xiao Jian and his group. If they hadn't appeared, Zhao Fu's plan of luring the enemy would not have been so successful. If he had sent out the goblins, they might have succeeded, but they would have aroused suspicion, and the results would not have been as good as Xiao Jian and his group. Most of the bandits only had weapons, and apart from shields, they had no defensive equipment at all. Now it was time for Zhao Fu's main concern. Out of the 3,700 corpses, there were 213 A-grade soldiers and 1 S-grade soldier. Adding on the villagers and corpses from the other villages, Zhao Fu now had 724 A-grade soldiers. As for the 2 S-grade soldiers, Zhao Fu had given them to the gnomes who were researching ballistae. Now Zhao Fu didn't care about the other corpses. The 10 skeleton cavalrymen rode on skeleton horses and devoured the deathly aura from the corpses, causing their spirit flames to become more than twice as strong. Within the stronghold, the second brother asked curiously, "What's going on? Third brother has been out for so long, why hasn't he come back yet? Don't tell me he's been chasing that 100 Flowers Village brat and won't come back until he kills him?" The big brother frowned, feeling that something wasn't quite right. However, he quickly thought about it and realized that third bro had led 4,000 brothers, and they could easily dominate the surrounding 50 kilometers. No one would be able to annihilate them, and not a single one of them managed to escape. Perhaps I was overthinking things. This big brother relaxed, but he never expected that his 4,000 brothers had long been killed by Zhao Fu to the point that only 300 were left, and that his third brother had also become a ghost under his sword. "Big brother, I'll bring a group of people to take a look. That brat, third brat, he's always acting rashly. He didn't even send someone back to report to us," the second brother said. The big brother nodded and said, "Then be careful. Come back immediately if you encounter any danger." Second brother acknowledged and left the stronghold with 100 bandits. On the other side, Zhao Fu was about to order people to casually bury the corpses. As for their various weapons, there were 3,000 or so normal-grade weapons, 10 or so blue-grade weapons, and 1 silver-grade weapon. Apart from the silver-grade weapons, the rest could be sold in Holy Light City, and they would be worth a bit of money. "Your Highness, another 100 bandits are rushing over from here," a soldier reported. Hearing this, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before leading a large number of soldiers to surround the 100 bandit. "Sir, who are you? Why have you surrounded us?" The second brother looked at the people surrounding them with a serious expression. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, "What do you think?" When the second brother saw Zhao Fu's smile, he felt that something was amiss and hurriedly said, We are from the Three Flood Dragon stronghold. I am the second in command of the Three Flood Dragon stronghold, and we have 5,000 brothers. I hope that Sir can let us go and not interfere with each other." The second brother was quite confused as to why so many elite soldiers had suddenly appeared, but he still brought up the name of his stronghold, hoping that he could escape and tell his big brother about this matter. 5,000 brothers? I think there's only 1,000 left, Zhao Fu faintly said to the second brother. Hearing this, the second brother was startled. He thought about his third brother, who had not returned, and the 4,000 brothers, and he immediately felt furious. However, he forcefully suppressed it because he could only force a smile and say, "Sir, have we misunderstood something?" Zhao Fu shook his head lightly. Upon seeing this, the last sliver of hope was shattered, and the second brother suddenly shouted, "Bro, let's charge out." But in the next second, at least 100 arrows enveloped the second brother. The second brother was unable to dodge at all and was hit by dozens of arrows. His body was riddled with holes and he died a miserable death. At the same time, 30 bandits were also killed. Seeing this, the other bandits did not dare to continue running, and they knelt and begged, "Sir, we've already killed you. I beg for mercy." Seeing this, Zhao Fu smiled and thought of a plan as he said, "I can spare you, but you have to do as I say. Bai Qi, take out a 3-poison pill and give it to them." Bai Qi took out a bottle of ordinary healing pills and handed it to the bandit. Wang Ergu understood and held back a smile. He looked at the bandits and bitterly swallowed the medicinal pills. "Now, you should understand that your stronghold is doomed to lose. It's impossible for you to stop us, and your 4,000 brothers have all been slaughtered by us. If you don't believe me, you can go and take a look." As he spoke, Zhao Fu took them to see the incredibly bloody scene. The ground was dyed red with blood, and corpses lay on the ground in all sorts of postures. Some had been shot to death by arrows, some had been nailed to the ground, and some had been pierced through by the cavalry. Before they died, their faces were filled with terror, pain, and all sorts of other emotions. "Sir, I beg you, please spare me." The bandits were all scared witless and knelt on the ground as they cried. Seeing this, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face, and he told them about his plan. "Since you understand that you won't be able to win, you should know what to do after you return to the stronghold. I'll give you this bottle of poison. If you don't want to die, do as I say. Not only will you not die, but you will also receive unimaginable benefit." Hearing this, the remaining 70 bandits trembled as they nodded and returned to the stronghold, while Zhao Fu led his people to secretly surround the stronghold. The outcome was already set in stone, and if things went according to plan, they would definitely succeed. Zhao Fu did not have to worry about the 70 bandits betraying him, as they weren't very loyal, and it was quite easy for them to betray Zhao Fu. Moreover, they were scared witless, and with the threat of poison, it was almost impossible for them to betray Zhao Fu. Even if they betrayed Zhao Fu, the only downside would be that they would have to kill a few more people. Some people might want to let them go, but if they betrayed Zhao Fu, the stronghold would definitely strengthen its defenses. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.